Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Fell for Vampire Queen? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The Kyuubi festival was in full swing as civilians and shinobi roamed around wearing masks of the 4th Hokage and the Kyuubi, enjoying food from various stalls and celebrating the night away. Everyone was having a blast, except for one child who was running away from a mob. In the shopping district, a blonde-haired boy with blue eyes and whisker marks on his cheeks was desperately fleeing from a crowd of both civilians and ninja. The child, named Naruto, ran as fast as his little legs could carry him, determined not to face the same fate as the previous year. Naruto turned a corner into an alleyway, only to find himself at a dead end. Panic set in as he heard the mob closing in, but he remembered the training he had received from one of his older sisters. He backed away slightly and then sprinted towards the wall just as the mob entered the alley. With a burst of speed, he ran up the wall and reached the top, then dashed across the rooftop. He jumped off the building and landed on the ground with a thud, continuing his sprint. Unfortunately, luck was not on his side, as the shinobi from the mob quickly caught up to him. Fear surged within him as he sprinted towards a nearby forest. Unbeknownst to Naruto, the shinobi were deliberately leading him to the most dangerous training ground in Konoha, Training Ground 44, also known as the Forest of Death. After a while of running, Naruto reached a large fence blocking off the dense forest, which emanated an unsettling aura. Not wanting to be caught by the mob, he began to climb the fence in haste. Just as he was about to leap over the fence, a kunai struck his left leg, causing him to lose his grip and fall to the ground. Looking up, he saw the mob had caught up to him, with civilians trailing behind. The leader of the mob, a shinobi wearing a jounin jacket, approached with a sadistic smile. Well, thought you could get away, little demon?" he taunted. Naruto remained silent, knowing that speaking would only lead to more trouble. The mob leader, displeased with the silence, drew a kunai and stabbed Naruto in the shoulder. "Staying silent won't help you, demon. And don't even think about hoping for a rescue. The Hokage is in a meeting with the council, so you're all alone and at our mercy," the leader sneered. He turned to his companions. "Well, what do you say, everyone? Let's finish what the 4th started." The mob cheered as they descended upon Naruto, attacking him with punches and kicks. Some of the ninjas even used fire techniques. A civilian approached with a pitchfork and stabbed Naruto in the abdomen, causing him to cry out in pain. By the end of the assault, Naruto lay on the ground, battered and bloodied. The mob reveled in their perceived victory, believing they had killed the demon brat. However, their celebration was short-lived as they noticed Naruto's wounds beginning to heal slowly, igniting their fury. Naruto opened his eyes slightly and glared at them with defiance. The mob leader, enraged, stomped on Naruto's chest, causing him to wheeze in pain. "What's with that look, demon? You don't get to look at us like that after what you did to us." In a final act of defiance, Naruto gathered some blood in his mouth and spat it into the leader's eye. The leader stumbled back, furious. "How dare you?" he shouted, turning to two civilians. "Hold him up with his arms out. It's time we ruin this brat's future." The two complied, forcing Naruto to his knees while holding his arms out. Despite his struggles, he lacked the strength to break free. A shinobi approached with a sword and handed it to the mob leader, who took it and positioned himself behind Naruto. "We may not be able to kill you thanks to that Hokage protecting you, but we can keep you from being a shinobi," the leader said, raising his sword high. In a moment of horror, Naruto realized what was about to happen. He felt a sharp pain, and as he looked down, dread filled him. His right arm was gone. He screamed in agony as blood poured from the stump. The mob cheered, believing they had taught him a lesson. Another shinobi, a chunin, approached the leader. "What do we do with him? We can't leave any evidence behind, right?" The leader thought for a moment before grinning wickedly. "Throw him in there and let the animals feed on him. I'm sure they'll appreciate their next meal." The mob grinned sadistically, picking up the unconscious Naruto and dragging him deep into the Forest of Death. They were fortunate not to encounter any animals, and they dumped Naruto's body in a clearing, leaving him to bleed out. As they walked away, celebrating the demise of the demon, Naruto managed to open his eyes slightly and sighed resolutely. So, this is how I die, huh? Down an arm, and killed by a bunch of arrogant, selfish people. With that thought, Naruto fell unconscious, blood pooling around him. Meanwhile, a shadowy figure appeared in the clearing, observing his bleeding form. The figure hurriedly treated the blonde as best as she could before picking him up and carrying him to get help. Outside the forest, the group rejoined the mob and informed them of the fate of the demon brat. The entire mob celebrated and was about to return to the village to enjoy the festivities when 3 Umbu jumped down to confront them. 2 males stood at the forefront, one wearing a dolphin mask with gray hair and the other a bear mask with black hair. The last Umbu was a woman with a cat mask and long, distinct purple hair. The one with the cat mask glared at the mob, desperately searching for a certain blonde. Her glare intensified when she did not see her favorite blonde anywhere in sight. In a low and dangerous tone that put everyone on edge, she demanded, "Where is he?" Where is who, Cat-san?" a Chunin asked, his voice quivering from her glare. "You know exactly who I'm talking about. Where is Naruto Uzumaki?" the cat-masked Umbu growled, her patience wearing thin. The mob leader approached with a confident smirk, presenting his severed arm to the Umbu. "We did what we should have done a long time ago. We killed the demon and rid his presence from our prosperous village." The purple-haired Umbu's eyes widened in shock and horror at the sight of the severed arm. She stepped closer with trembling legs, snatching the arm from the mob leader and clutching it tightly to her chest. "No, no, no, no." The Umbu behind the cat-masked Umbu walked toward the leader, patting him on the back. "Wow, I didn't think anyone would have the guts to do it, but it looks like I was wrong. Good work, pal." Slowly, the cat-masked Umbu rose from the floor while drawing her katana. Nobody noticed this, and she took full advantage, decapitating the mob leader, his head rolling onto the floor. The sight sent blood gushing from his neck stump, splattering the purple-haired Umbu. The mob was terrified and attempted to flee from the cat-masked Umbu, but 4 shadow clones appeared, blocking the exit to the training grounds, all with drawn katanas in hand. Yugao was furious. No, furious wasn't the right term for what she felt. Yugao Yuzuki was downright enraged. Beyond her mask, everyone could see lifeless eyes filled with cold fury. Yugao slowly walked toward the mob, ready to end their insignificant existence. The mob grew fearful until the other 2 Umbu with Yugao suddenly drew their weapons against her to protect the mob. "Captain, what are you doing? These villagers saved our village. You can't just..." Yugao did not let him finish his sentence as her blade pierced the Umbus. In a cold and heartless voice, devoid of any emotion, she stated, "You're relieved from your duties as an Umbu. Permanently." With that, Yugao wrenched her blade from the Umbu's chest, causing him to fall to the floor. She immediately got behind the second Umbu and bisected him from the waist down. More blood splattered onto Yugao's already bloodied form as she turned to the mob, who looked on in terror. "Kill them all. Leave no survivors," Yugao commanded her clones, who were eager to follow the order. Screams and cries of agony echoed near the forest of death as each civilian and shinobi was ruthlessly cut down by the purple-haired Umbu captain. By the time she was done, the entrance of Training Ground 44 was covered in chaos. Soft crying could be heard as Yugao clutched the small severed arm of her favorite blonde tightly. She was too late. She was too slow. If only she had ignored her orders sooner, she could have reached him in time. All of her friends were on a mission, leaving her alone to find Naruto. She sank to her knees and began to sob loudly. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun," Yugao cried, her heart breaking as she held onto the one thing that remained of the whiskered blonde. In her sadness, she never noticed a shadowy figure watching her from inside the forest. A smile adorned the figure's face, and her eyes glowed a menacing red before bats enveloped her form, and she suddenly vanished. In an unknown location, a feminine voice echoed in a dark hallway. "So, Lady Veronica, do you have any idea why you were called?" The female who spoke had a short stature, shiny pale skin, long silver hair tied in a high ponytail with a large ribbon, and crimson eyes that glowed in the dark. She wore a black evening dress with a heavy skirt and red thrills, a short tailored jacket of the same color, and black high heels. A red umbrella rested over her shoulder, and a stuck smirk graced her lips. I do not, unfortunately. However, if my subjects in the medical wing do not provide a good enough reason for interrupting my slumber, you have my permission to do as you see fit to them, Shelter, the second woman replied in a serious tone. Shaltir giggled in excitement at the prospect of new playmates. The second figure was also a woman, exuding a regal and otherworldly air, with extreme beauty. She had pale skin that shone in the moonlight, very long glistening black hair with swept bangs tied in a bun, pointed ears, glowing crimson eyes, red lipstick, and an hourglass figure. Her intricate shoulderless red dress featured black trimmings and a high collar, with wide sleeves trimmed in black fur. Oh, come now, Lady Veronica. I'm sure they wouldn't have interrupted your slumber without a good reason. Maybe they found something important, Shaltir said with a smile. We shall see. However, I'm keeping my expectations extremely low, Veronica replied, still annoyed at the interruption. They approached a large door marked Medical Wing and walked inside. They were greeted by medical equipment everywhere, some of her kin lying on separate beds, and large tubes filled with a green substance in the back of the room. Soon, a doctor rushed over to them and bowed toward his queen. Lady Veronica. Lady Shaltir. It's an honor for you to save us the pleasantries. I was woken from my slumber to come here, so if I find out that this trip was a waste of my time, then I shall sever the bones from your flesh and feed them to the werewolves. Is that clear? Veronica said with glowing narrowed eyes. Yes, my lady. Please, right this way, the doctor stammered, nearly trembling in fear. His queen was not someone to anger, and they had just woken her from a deep sleep. He prayed to whatever god was listening that he would come out of this encounter alive. They entered a large room filled with even larger containers of green fluid than those in the main room. However, as Veronica and Shaltir stepped inside, their noses instantly picked up the scent of fresh blood. Not just any blood, but the blood of a human. Shaltir began to salivate at the sweet smell of fresh human blood. Veronica, however, narrowed her eyes in anger. She would hold her tongue for now, but if the doctor had done what she suspected, then she would punish him severely for putting their race in jeopardy. They soon turned a corner, and both women looked at a large table with medical equipment set aside on a nearby surface. What caught their attention, however, was the person on the table. It was a boy who looked no older than 6 or 7, with short spiky blonde hair and whisker marks on his face. His clothes were nothing but rags, and his skin appeared charred. The most alarming detail was that the boy's right arm was missing from the shoulder down. Oh my! A human here, and a child no less. Well, if no one wants his blood, then I'd be more than happy to, Shelter began, but was cut off when Veronica suddenly raised her hand toward the doctor and clenched her fist. The doctor's body locked in place, and his veins began to bulge. He could feel his blood pressure rise, and his heart beat erratically. Pain shot through his entire body as his eyes became bloodshot. Veronica spoke up with a hard glare, a black and red aura surrounding her form. Doctor, you have exactly 10 seconds to explain to me why in my ancestors' grave you brought a human into my domain. If you fail to provide a satisfactory answer, Shaltir and her minions will drain every ounce of blood from your corpse and tear you limb from limb. I didn't. I swear on our ancestors, Lady Veronica, the doctor exclaimed, sinking to his knees. If you didn't bring him here, then who did? Answer me, vermin. Veronica demanded, her fury palpable. Lady Veronica. Please stop, it's not his fault. I'm the one who brought him here, so I'm the one you should be punishing. Another voice spoke out, catching everyone's attention. The black-haired beauty lowered her hand, releasing her hold on the doctor. All eyes turned to see a beautiful woman with short chestnut brown hair adorned with a black hairband, reddish-brown eyes, and a figure that put most of Veronica's female subjects to shame, including Shelter. She wore a black maid outfit with a long skirt that revealed the top of her ample bosom, a white maid headdress, short-heeled shoes, and a black collar around her neck. Her most notable features were the floppy dog ears on both sides of her head, along with the swaying dog tail protruding from her tailbone. Veronica regarded her maid with a hard look, causing the maid to tremble slightly in fear. "And what, pray tell, possessed you to bring a human to our safe haven for monsters? Answer me, Roxanne. I would be quick if I were you. You of all people know how much Lady Veronica despises humans, Roxanne. So best be quick before she decides to kill you," Shaltir said with a sadistic smile. Roxanne steeled herself before speaking clearly. "I'm sorry, my lady, but I couldn't just leave him to die. I was roaming the forest outside to find more beasts to join our army when I caught the scent of blood. By the time I found him, he was already on the verge of death, and I couldn't just leave him there, regardless of whether he was human or not." Roxanne bowed lowly, her figure captivating as she continued, "I deeply apologize for my actions in putting our people in jeopardy. I will accept any punishment you give me, but please, I beg of you, save him." Veronica studied Roxanne for a few moments before rubbing the bridge of her nose in annoyance. "Very well. However, I will look into his memories first. Should I find him to be a spy, then I shall kill him without a second thought, and you shall join him soon after." "Weiss, my lady," Roxanne replied, her head still bowed. Veronica walked toward the unconscious boy and placed her hand on his head. She channeled magic into her palm, focusing on the blonde's mind. Her vision shifted, and then it went black. 20 minutes later, Veronica jolted back, panting heavily. Nobody spoke. The only sound in the room was Veronica's labored breathing. The doctor, feeling a bit bold, decided to speak up softly. "Lady Veronica, are you He was cut off when Veronica suddenly gripped his face, her nails digging into his skin. He nearly panicked when he saw her glowing red eyes glaring at him. "Listen here, doctor, and listen well, because I shall only say this once. You are to ensure this boy's survival, no matter the cost. Should he perish under your supervision, I will subject you to the most vile and horrendous torture before draining the life essence from your body and feeding you to Zephyr. Do I make myself clear?" Veronica said in a cold and dark voice, causing the doctor to nod his head fearfully. Anything was better than being on the receiving end of that massive wolf's gaze. He immediately got to work, preparing one of the tubes in the room to heal the boy as best as he could. "Shalter, inform the others to meet me in my bedchambers in an hour. I want everyone there, understood?" Veronica instructed, and the pale woman bowed in a curtsy. "By your will, my mistress, it shall be done," Shaltir replied before her form was surrounded by bats, and she disappeared. Veronica then turned her gaze on Roxanne, who flinched at her stare. However, she relaxed upon feeling her mistress's soft hand on her cheek. "Be at ease, Roxanne. You will not be punished for your actions." I won't," Roxanne asked, feeling surprised. "Not at all. You've done me a great service once again, my loyal attendant. For now, go and fulfill your duties. I shall call upon you again at a later date," Veronica said, and the maid nodded as she exited the medical wing. Veronica then locked her eyes with the injured boy, who she learned was named Naruto Uzumaki. Her hand rested on his cheek, and she began to caress it lovingly. "Such a cruel fate brought upon you, poor child. I thought my hatred for humanity couldn't get any worse, but it appears I've been proven wrong once again." She looked at the stump of Naruto's arm before clenching her hand at her side, drawing blood. "You will not die, Naruto Uzumaki. I will see to that personally." That was the promise she was willing to keep for as long as she lived. And as a vampire, she would keep that promise for as long as her long life allowed her. She had work to do, and she needed to do it quickly. If she was going to bring the boy back to the waking world, then she would make him the best version he could be. Veronica entered her large room and scanned her surroundings. The room was dark, with crimson moonlight peeking through the curtains. A huge lavish bed was centered in the middle of the room, and off to the side was her dresser, adorned with luxurious items ranging from makeup and accessories to the occasional bottle of human blood. However, her main focus was a large bottle containing a silver and black substance. Her hand reached out, and the container flew through the air into her grasp. She looked into the container with contemplation before sighing. I was wondering what to do with this, but it appears that you have a purpose after all, Veronica said with conviction, before undoing the lid. She lifted the substance with a raised hand, and it followed her movements, forming into a ball. She walked toward her dresser, clearing a space for what she was about to do. Veronica closed her eyes, and almost immediately, the ball of silver and black began to take shape. It bent and twisted at her will, becoming longer and slimmer. Soon, fingers formed at the front of the shape, and the orb solidified slightly, taking the shape of a silver and black metallic arm. It's all coming together, but it's not enough. Adamantium and vibranium are a force to be reckoned with together, but I want this arm to be indestructible. An idea struck Veronica that just might work. She elongated her nails and swiped them across her other palm, drawing blood. The arm glowed a red color for a few seconds before the light faded. The arm looked the same, except for red lines running from the shoulder down to the back of the hand. Veronica smirked in victory as she used her magic to solidify the liquid metal, and the now-formed arm fell on her dresser with a clang. I've done it. A combination of two of the strongest metals in the world, enhanced by a vampire's blood manipulation abilities. This is already more than enough, but I feel like something is missing. Just then, a familiar voice spoke up behind her. I suppose you don't need my help with that, dear sister? Turning around, Veronica saw two figures that made her smile slightly. The first was a tall old man with the appearance of a butler, long white hair tied in a low ponytail, and a bang hanging over his eye. He wore a black suit adorned with gold trimming, white gloves, black dress pants, and steel toe shoes. Naruto groaned as he woke up from his unconscious state. He felt slight aches in his body, and his head was throbbing, causing him to clutch his head in pain with his right arm. Wait, right arm? Wasn't his arm cut off? Naruto opened his eyes slowly to a shocking sight. His right arm was still attached to his body, but something felt off. It was different somehow, yet he couldn't pinpoint why. It was also wrapped in black wrappings, obscuring even the skin of his arm. Ah, finally awake are we? You've had me worried for quite a while, a female voice spoke, catching Naruto off guard as he looked up from his position. His breathing nearly stopped at the sight of the woman above him. Looking down at him was a black-haired beauty, who gave the former blonde a small smile filled with warmth and kindness. I'm glad to know that you didn't perish. Naruto then realized where he was. He was lying on a huge bed at the center of the room, but that wasn't what captured his focus. No, it was the fact that his head was resting on the woman's lap. He tried to sit up and get away from her, but she gently pressed his head back down. There's no need to be afraid, child. If I wished you harm, then I would have let you perish from your wounds. Naruto felt a bit unsettled by the woman's words, but he soon relaxed as she gently caressed his hair. You not saved me? He asked, still trying to process everything. I played a part in your survival, yes. I must say, you are quite the stubborn boy, Naruto Uzumaki, the woman replied with a smile, causing Naruto to tense up. How do you know my name, lady? He asked, narrowing his eyes in suspicion. I shall tell you at a later time. For now, you are weakened, so try not to move for a while and relax, she said with a chuckle of amusement. It's kind of hard to relax when a woman I don't know has me at her mercy right now, Naruto responded, still feeling cautious. Yes, I haven't introduced myself, have I? My name is Veronica. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Naruto, she said sincerely. Naruto was taken aback by Veronica's kindness but welcomed it nonetheless. Why, likewise. What happened while I was unconscious? But remember is that mob tossing me in the forest and then I blacked out. Veronica felt a surge of anger as she recalled what he was talking about. She had seen his memories, including the painful moments of being attacked by a mob of humans. The thought of how they had treated him filled her with disgust. It made her want to confront that village and its people. They had tormented this boy since the day he was born, treating him poorly and even beating him on his birthday, which was today. To put it bluntly, you were attacked by humans and were on the verge of death. Luckily, one of my maids found you near the entrance to my home. Otherwise, you would be long dead by now, Veronica explained, her tone growing serious as she thought of Konoha. She and her kind may have been considered monsters, but they would never stoop so low as to harm a child. Of course, those villagers do this every year. Why do I even bother trying to earn their respect? Don't answer that, it was rhetorical, Naruto said with annoyance, causing Veronica to raise an eyebrow at his outburst. Quite the mouth on you for such a young child. Any particular reason why that is? She inquired. Well, when you hang out with 4 women and one of them curses like a drunken sailor when she's angry, you tend to pick up a few things, Naruto replied with a smirk, thinking of a certain snake mistress. I see. Well, in any case, it's good to see you are in good health. We shall continue this conversation at a later date, but for now, I'd like you to eat and freshen up, Veronica said, gently helping Naruto sit up from her lap. Just then, the door opened, and Roxanne entered with a tray of food. Naruto felt his cheeks flush at the sight of the beautiful maid, doing a double take at her dog ears and tail. You're finally awake. Thank goodness. I was worried you would die from your injuries, but it looks like Lady Veronica saved you, Roxanne said with a bright smile as she set the tray down next to them. Roxanne, I don't deserve all the credit. Had you not found him, he would have perished in my forest, Veronica interjected, catching Naruto's attention. You're the one that found me? Naruto asked, surprised. Yes, I did. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Roxanne. Please eat and recover your strength, she said, attempting to feed him a piece of meat. Hey, wait a sec, I'm not. Naruto started to protest, but Roxanne suddenly shoved the piece of meat into his mouth. He was about to complain until a burst of flavors exploded in his mouth, causing his eyes to widen. So, what do you think? Roxanne asked nervously. This is amazing. I don't think I've had anything better than this before. Sure, Ichiraku's is great, but this is on a whole new level, Naruto exclaimed in awe, making Roxanne blush. I'm glad you think so, Naruto. This was prepared with the freshest ingredients we have. Well at that, and I tasked Roxanne to make the meal herself, Veronica added with a smile, which made Roxanne blush even more. Well, whatever this is, it's amazing. Thanks, Roxanne, Naruto said with a grateful smile. Roxanne nodded happily at the praise as Naruto finished his meal. Now that you've eaten, it's time for you to take a bath. Roxanne, can you help him with this while I wait for the others to arrive? Veronica asked her maid, who nodded in affirmation. Naruto, however, looked baffled at the vampire's words, his face turning red. Wait, what? No, I can bathe on my own, thank you very much. Like I said, Naruto, you are weakened at the moment, and you need to change out of those rags. We have much to discuss, and I would prefer if you were presentable. Roxanne, if you would, Veronica instructed, gesturing for her maid to take Naruto to the bathroom. Roxanne complied, carrying Naruto away while he thrashed around childishly, his face still red. Naruto woke up to the sound of dripping water as he slowly opened his eyes. He sat up to find himself in a dark sewer with glowing blue, red, and black pipes running along the walls. To his surprise, he wasn't sitting in dirty sewer water but in something else entirely. The white-haired boy stood up and surveyed his surroundings with a raised eyebrow. Well, this place looks terrible. I really hope Veronica didn't throw me down in the sewers for a test, otherwise, I'm going to be upset. After a minute of looking around, Naruto decided to walk down the seemingly endless corridor of his mind. Eventually, he came upon a massive gate with the kanji for seal at its center, acting as a lock. His curiosity piqued, but it turned to confusion when he noticed a pair of crimson eyes with slitted pupils opening up and looking at him with curiosity. Naruto couldn't tell, but he now knew he wasn't alone in this sewer. A feminine voice echoed throughout the darkness, making him take a step back in nervousness. Ah, my container finally decides to visit little old me? I expected you later on in your life, but this is not acceptable. Come here, Naruto-kun. Who are you? And how do you know my name? Naruto asked skeptically, not trusting the person beyond the cage. Oh, but Naruto, I know everything about you. I've been a part of you since your birth after all, the voice replied playfully, causing a confused look to dawn on Naruto's face. If you want to know more, feel free to come inside the cage. I'm more than willing to wait. The glowing eyes slowly disappeared into the dark abyss that was inside the cage, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts. He'd be lying if he said he wasn't curious. If this woman knew where he was, then he obviously wanted some answers. With that thought in mind, the white-haired boy slowly entered the cage. The moment he stepped inside, he was surrounded by darkness, barely able to see anything around him. "Hey, you still there?" "I'm here, so if you don't mind, I'd like some answers about where I am," he shouted into the darkness, hoping for a response. Silence reigned for a few moments, making Naruto a bit annoyed, until a voice spoke behind him. "No need to shout, Naruto-kun. After all." Naruto spun around in an attempt to see who was behind him, but he couldn't make out anything. He stiffened as he felt a pair of slender arms wrap around his neck from behind, and soon that same feminine voice cooed in his ear. If you wanted answers, all you needed to do was ask. Naruto felt a shiver go down his spine when he sensed soft breathing near his ear. The female voice noticed this and spoke again in a calm and soothing tone. "There's no need to be afraid, Naruto-kun. I promise you that I won't hurt you. How about we make this easier for you?" As she said that, Naruto felt the woman's left arm lift from his neck, and she snapped her fingers. Soon, multiple small balls of fire surrounded him, allowing him to see somewhat. That should help you see better, right?" "I admit it helps, but if you don't mind, can you let me go? You're kind of distracting me," Naruto said, a blush creeping onto his face. "Oh, you don't want a hug from me? I want to stay like this for a bit longer," the woman said, and Naruto could feel the pout she was giving him. With strength he didn't know he had, he managed to free himself from her hold and put some distance between them. The white-haired boy turned around to see who his assailant was, only for his breath to catch in his throat at the sight before him. Standing proudly was a gorgeous woman with dark skin, long crimson hair tied in a high spiky ponytail, beautiful crimson eyes with slitted pupils and whisker markings on her cheeks similar to Naruto's. She wore a red kimono with black trim that hugged her figure nicely, a black and purple sash and black sandals. Her kimono had a white fox pattern, and it was open at the shoulders, revealing her figure. However, Naruto's attention was drawn to the crimson fox ears on her head and the 9 crimson fox tails swaying behind her. The red-haired vixen noticed Naruto's stare and couldn't help but smirk at his red face. "Like what you see." Naruto blushed more when he realized he was caught staring and quickly turned away. Shut up. I don't know what you're talking about." "It's okay, Naruto-kun. There's no need to be shy around me," the woman said, smirking as she once again wrapped her arms around him. Naruto shook his head to focus and looked at her with a serious expression. "Lady, you may know me, but I don't even know who you are. So if you could tell me your name, that would be great." "Unfortunately, you aren't ready to know my name just yet. So for now, just call me Q," she replied, placing a hand on her hip. "Where exactly are we and why am I here?" Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes as he surveyed his surroundings. Q sat on the floor and gave him a neutral look. "Well, to put it bluntly, we're in your mind. Thanks to your decision to become a vampire, your mind changed, and unfortunately, it wasn't for the better." "My mind, huh? Not really the biggest fan of sewer systems, especially when the water is replaced with blood." "Wait a minute, if this is my mind, then what are you? Some figment of my imagination?" Naruto asked, curiosity piqued, but it turned to annoyance when he saw Q giggling in amusement. "Oh, I'm more than that, Naruto-kun. Since you appreciate honesty, I'll be truthful with you. To put it bluntly, I'm the Kyuubi no Kitsune," she said proudly, causing Naruto's eyes to widen. "The hell? How are you the Kyuubi? The 4th Hokage killed you, didn't he? Plus, last time I checked, the Kyuubi is supposed to be a gigantic fox." Naruto shouted, confusion washing over him as he wondered how the supposed Kyuubi was in his mind. "Let's just say my death was greatly exaggerated. Tailed beasts like myself can't be killed so easily, and for a human, it's downright impossible. So your Hokage did the next best thing," Q explained, maneuvering one of her tails to point at Naruto's stomach. "And I'm certain that you've seen that seal on your stomach more than once." Naruto connected the dots almost immediately after he registered her words. He had read a book about something called Jinchuriki, and since the strongest of the tailed beasts was inside of him, he came to a realization. Clenching his fists, Naruto spoke in a low voice. So the reason why they hate me is because of you being inside me? Q flinched slightly but nodded reluctantly, not wanting to lie to the boy. Unfortunately for what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything my presence has caused you. I tried to help you the best I could, but the seal keeping me here is restricting my power, to the point where I could only send a small amount of my Yuki into your system to heal you, Q explained. Naruto looked directly into the vixen's eyes and asked, "The only thing I want to know is why. Why did you attack the village and kill so many people?" Q sighed and replied, her voice tinged with embarrassment, "That was partially my fault. When I was released from my previous Jinchuriki, I was immediately put in a genjutsu that heightened my bloodlust. When I broke out of it, I was confused about where I was and tried to leave your village, but those humans kept attacking me. I got very annoyed and lashed out at them. Plus, it didn't help that it was that time of the month for me either. So let me get this straight. You were forced to attack the village?" Naruto asked, and Q nodded in confirmation. "Then I don't see the problem. You're not mad at me? I practically ruined your childhood after all," Q said, a bit shocked, but her expression soon turned to relief as she heard Naruto's words. "From your story, it doesn't seem like it's your fault in the first place. Besides, you've tried your best to heal me every time I was beaten on my birthday, so I say that you made it up to me already," Naruto shrugged. "I see. Thank you for understanding my situation, Naruto-kun." Q sniffed the air and noticed a familiar scent on her Jinchuriki. "Ah, so you've become one of Veronica's vampires. Good, she will no doubt treat you well." "You know Veronica?" Naruto asked, curiosity piqued. Q giggled a bit before responding, "Of course, we've known each other since my siblings and I came into existence. That bloodsucker is definitely one of the more friendly vampires I've met." She spoke fondly, reminiscing about her younger days as a fox kit. "And you're not mad at me for becoming a vampire?" Naruto asked skeptically. "Of course not. Well, I would be if it was by any other vampire, like that Edwin Black. You're just lucky Veronica was the one that turned you. Otherwise, you would most likely be treated poorly. Besides, I'd rather be sealed inside of an understanding vampire than an insignificant and selfish human demanding my power," Q said with a growl. "Wow, I don't know if I should feel grateful for the compliment or annoyed, considering I was a human," Naruto replied, feeling a bit confused. "Take it however you like, but just to let you know, I'm insulting your former race, not you," Q said playfully. "But whatever the case, I suggest you wake up soon. Your mistress is waiting for you." "Ha, very funny. How do I get out of here anyway?" Naruto said sarcastically. "Oh, let me handle that," Q said, placing 2 fingers on her container's head. "Oh, and before I send you out, I just want to say if you need my help with anything, then I'll do what I can to help you." "Thanks, Q. I know this is a stretch, but is there a chance you could tell me your real name?" Naruto asked hopefully. The vixen blushed slightly at his words and looked away in embarrassment. "Maybe when you're older, I might tell you. Now be gone with you." With that, Q channeled her Yuki into her fingers and forcibly kicked Naruto out of his mind. She sat up and let out a sigh. "That boy needs to realize what he just asked me and soon, otherwise, I'll get the wrong idea. Thank Kami he doesn't hate me. By all rights, he should after what I put him through." Her thoughts were interrupted by a deep rumble, followed by a dark voice that spoke up in amusement. "Oh please, Vixen, he already forgave you. Isn't that enough?" Q looked beyond her prison into the endless darkness and saw multiple sets of glowing crimson eyes looking directly at her with wide smirks, showing sharp teeth. She glared at her recent roommate and spoke with a heated voice. "Pitof, beast. You're lucky this seal is holding back most of my power. Otherwise, I would take you down right here." The dark voice chuckled mockingly before responding, "Unlikely. The only one who can even remotely come close to killing me is that god who sealed you in the boy, and maybe the boy himself when he reaches his peak. However, I am also weakened at the moment, so I suppose neither of us should push our luck." Q glared at the figure, her expression fierce. "I'm warning you, beast. You do anything to endanger our container, and I will take action." "Haha, I'd like to see you try, but for now, I'm going to sleep." Try not to make too much noise, will you? Oh, and one more thing. If you plan on claiming the boy as your mate, then you might want to reveal your true name soon. The dark voice faded, and the glowing red eyes closed in the darkness, leaving Q alone with her thoughts. The vixen sighed and grumbled under her breath. Living in this small cage is already bad enough, but now I have to share it with that thing. Naruto woke up from his unconscious state with a groan, feeling a bit sore. He noticed that he was in a different room than before, so he tried to get up and find the vampire queen, but a hand kept him from rising. Please rest a bit more, master. You're still weak from being turned into a vampire, a soft voice spoke up, catching Naruto's attention. He looked up to see Roxanne smiling down at him. Roxanne? Where am I? Naruto asked groggily. You're in my room, master. Lady Veronica had important business to attend to, so she left you in my care, Roxanne explained while gently caressing his hair. Naruto realized that his head was resting on the maid's lap, and a slight blush adorned his face. His mind told him to get up, but he found his current position very comfortable. He pushed the thought of moving out of his mind and settled in Roxanne's lap. Roxanne giggled at her master's flustered look and smiled. Rest as much as you like, master. Although Lady Luca had instructed them to meet in the Forest of Death once he had recovered enough, Naruto was still curious about his new companion. Thanks for the heads up, but if I can ask, why do you keep calling me master? He inquired, raising an eyebrow. Oh right, you fell unconscious. Well, soon after Lady Veronica turned you into a vampire, she assigned me to be your personal maid. I am to fulfill all of your needs and serve you until I die, master, Roxanne explained. Okay, you can stop that, Naruto said, narrowing his eyes. Roxanne looked at him with confusion, prompting him to elaborate. Stop calling me master. It makes me feel weird. If you're going to be my maid, then just call me by my name. I won't treat you any less than an equal. Roxanne blushed slightly but smiled warmly at his words. Very well. I look forward to serving you, Naruto. Naruto groaned before a small smile appeared on his face. We'll have to work on that in the future. Just let me borrow your lap for a while, will you? With that, Naruto settled down on Roxanne's lap, and she began to slide his hair contentedly. A comfortable silence enveloped them as Roxanne smiled warmly at the Jinchuriki resting in her lap. I'll do my best to serve you, Naruto. That I promise you, she whispered softly, careful not to wake him. Hours later, they found themselves at the outskirts of the forest surrounding Cinderspire Castle. The forest was vast, towering over the castle itself, or at least that was how it appeared to Naruto. He glanced back at the castle he had just left, feeling astonished by its grandeur. The castle loomed high, constructed from a black stone-like material, shrouded in an ethereal light emanating from within the city. Mist surrounded the lower parts of the castle, black clouds hung ominously overhead, and the purple sky, along with the red moon, cast a sinister aura over the fortress, sending a shiver down Naruto's spine. Curious about the sky and moon, Naruto had questioned Roxanne, recalling that she had mentioned they were deep underground, right beneath the Forest of Death. Her response surprised him. The sky and moon were artificial, designed to provide comfort to the creatures in Veronica's domain, particularly the beastman races inhabiting the surrounding forest. Currently, Naruto and Roxanne were venturing into the expansive forest to locate a secret entrance that would lead them above ground and into the Forest of Death. From what Naruto had gathered, the Forest of Death was part of the Beastman territory, along with the woods surrounding Cinderspire Castle. The guardians of the forest were comprised of two races, werewolves and wercats. Though they often clashed, they united when it came to protecting Cinderspire. There were various breeds within both races, yet they remained part of their respective groups. Roxanne had also shared insights about their society. There was a hierarchy in Cinderspire, with half-breeds, those of mixed human and monster heritage, at the bottom. They were generally looked down upon, as many purebloods held disdain for humans, leading to the demi-humans being ridiculed. Above the demi-humans were the purebloods, who were full-blooded monsters. Most civilians in Cinderspire belonged to this category, and they were generally stronger than half-breeds. Roxanne fell into this group. Next in the hierarchy were the soldiers of Cinderspire. While anyone could become a soldier, it was more challenging for half-breeds. The soldiers primarily consisted of beastmen, but other races, such as orcs and trolls, were also represented. Then came the elite, which Roxanne humorously referred to as the Big Three: the werewolves, warcats, and the succubi-incubi, along with the vampires. These races were the strongest in Cinderspire, capable of rivaling elite-level ninjas, particularly their leaders, who were said to be even more powerful. Following the Big Three were the nobles. Most noble houses had been wiped out during a significant event at the start of the Second Shinobi War, leaving only two families: the Alucard house of the vampire race and another house that Roxanne refused to discuss. At the top of the hierarchy was the Queen of Cinderspire, Veronica. She held the highest authority in the kingdom, and anyone who dared to undermine her rule faced dire consequences. Naruto thought that ruling Cinderspire was somewhat akin to being a Hokage. Naruto snapped back to reality when he bumped into Roxanne's back. She was gazing at a large, intricately drawn circle hidden among the bushes. Taking his hand, she led him into the circle, which began to glow faintly. "Don't worry, Naruto. This is just one of the hidden entrances to the Forest of Death. This magic circle will teleport us into a restricted area, so we won't draw any attention," Roxanne assured him before channeling mana into the teleportation circle. The circle brightened, and in an instant, they vanished from their previous location. In the restricted zone of the Forest of Death, a teleportation circle glowed within a hollowed-out tree. Naruto and Roxanne materialized in a flash of light, with Naruto feeling a bit disoriented from the sudden shift in space. Roxanne quickly rushed to his side. "Oh no, I'm so sorry, Naruto. I forgot to mention that first-time users of teleportation circles often experience nausea." Doing his best to suppress his discomfort, Naruto replied with a shaky voice, "Don't worry about it, Roxanne. I just need a minute." After regaining his composure, Naruto stood up and they exited the hollowed tree. He was immediately greeted by the familiar sight of tall, thick trees typical of the Forest of Death. Roxanne began to lead him deeper into the woods, and Naruto had more questions he wanted to ask. "Hey, Roxanne." Roxanne perked up at her master's voice, and Naruto spoke once he had her attention. "Why exactly are we in this specific section of the forest? Isn't this place called the Restricted Zone, for a reason?" "Oh, that's quite simple, Naruto-sama. The reason we're here is that this is the Beastman's territory." "Why do you think it's called the Restricted Zone?" Roxanne explained. "It's either because nobody made it this far into the forest, or the people who enter here never make it out alive, right?" Naruto questioned, raising an eyebrow. "Exactly. Plus, this part of the forest is home to several dangerous creatures, far more dangerous than the ones outside of this area. This place is practically a home for Lady Luca and her people," Roxanne said with a smile, though her expression shifted to concern when they felt the ground tremble slightly. Suddenly, something huge shot out of the ground, and both the vampire and wolfkin looked up to see a massive black centipede with a wide-open maw, revealing rows of sharp yellow teeth dripping with a green and purple liquid, which Naruto could only assume was poison. Naruto looked almost fearful at the sight, while Roxanne appeared strangely calm. He was about to ask why she was so composed when the centipede lunged at them with incredible speed. The centipede was mere inches from sinking its teeth into Roxanne when, in an instant, its head was separated from the rest of its body. Naruto blinked in bewilderment at the sight, unsure of what had just happened. Did Roxanne do that? Was she the one to defeat that creature? Before he could voice his question, an old voice spoke up in a light-hearted tone. "Ah, Roxanne. It's good to see you around these parts again. I was starting to think you forgot about us." Naruto and Roxanne looked up to see a large black and white two-tailed cat standing on the back of the centipede like a human. He had an eye patch over his right eye, while his good eye was red with a slit pupil. He wore an orange motif jacket with a cutout on the back, allowing his tails to poke out, and he had two kodachi, both sheathed in a single red sheath at either end. Roxanne smiled brightly at the figure before speaking happily. "Ah, Master Jubii. It's so good to see you again." The now-named Jubii grinned before jumping off the centipede and landing in front of them. "It's good to see you too, Roxanne. I knew I smelled a familiar scent around here. Ah, and I see you brought the boy with you too. Naruto looked a little shocked at the sight of Jubiai. Realizing the two-tailed cat was looking at him, he decided to introduce himself. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Ha, he's a polite one, I'll tell you. A pleasure to meet you too, kid. The name's Jubiai. Veronica told me quite a bit about you, and I'll tell you, she's got high expectations for you, Jubiai said with a smirk. But enough about that, you two should probably come with me. Better that than to have these beasts attacking you constantly. Naruto and Roxanne nodded, and they began to follow Jubiai further into the forest. Feeling curious, Naruto spoke up. Hey, Jubiai, you were the one who killed that centipede, right? Of course. I wouldn't be the leader of the workats if I couldn't take down a small fry like that. Also, stop calling me sir, kid. It makes me feel older than I already am. Jubiai grinned at the white-haired boy. Seriously? In that case, can you train me? I need to get stronger, and you seem very strong for an older man, Naruto said, but was met with a light bonk on the head from Jubiai, who gave him a flat look. Don't call me an old man, brat. Besides, I was planning on training you anyway, thanks to Veronica calling in a favor, Jubiai said, feeling a bit annoyed at being called old. He wasn't that old. Really? What exactly are you going to train me in? Naruto asked with curiosity. Well, I'd have to get a read on what you can do first before anything. From what I heard from Veronica, you already have a bit of shinobi training thanks to those female humans in your life, right? Jubiai said with a grin. Yeah, I do. Thanks to them I can. Oh no. I forgot about Yugaone. I need to let her know that I'm all right. Naruto exclaimed, and he was about to sprint out of the forest to Konoha until Roxanne stopped him by grabbing his shoulder and turning him to face her. Naruto-sama, please calm down. If you go back to that village, then there's no telling what might happen, the chestnut wolfkin said softly, trying to calm her master down. She's right, kid. Veronica told me what happened to you in that village, so if you go back there, there's no doubt that your village will try to do something to you. Not to mention that this secrecy we're trying to keep from the council about you would be discovered. And let me tell you, you're not ready for those kinds of people yet, Jubiai said seriously, getting Naruto to reluctantly stop. He was about to protest, but Jubiai interrupted him. Relax, Naruto. I'm sure you'll see them again in the future, it's just that now isn't the best time. Besides, if I know any better, Veronica's going to do something about those women in your life very soon, the old cat thought with a grin. Naruto reluctantly nodded before Jubiai spoke again. Glad to know that you understand, kid. Oh, and don't think you'll be alone in your training, Naruto. I've got 2 more students training with me, one of whom you already know. Really? Who are they? Naruto asked with curiosity. Well, both of them are around your age, but one of them is from the workat race. You'll meet the other soon, for now, just follow me, Jubiai said. Naruto and Roxanne nodded, following Jubiai further into the forest. I really hope you know what you're doing, Veronica. This kid does seem promising though. Little Setsuna and Kira needed a new training partner, which brought a sense of excitement and hope to Jubiai at the prospect of teaching another student. As they trekked through the forest, Naruto noticed that they had not encountered any more beasts. He speculated that it must have been because Jubiai was with them, though he wasn't entirely sure. They had been walking for close to 30 minutes, but that didn't bother him. He enjoyed being surrounded by nature, and the presence of monsters that would frighten any normal person didn't faze him. Eventually, they reached a massive tree marked with claw scratches in an X-shaped pattern. Jubiai turned to Naruto and Roxanne, smiling as he spoke. Alright, we're here. I know you have some shinobi training, Naruto, but do you know how to tree walk? Yeah, I do. It was one of the first things I learned in case I was trapped by the villagers, Naruto replied, silently grateful to a certain mentor for helping him with his chakra control. Good, because I'm not carrying you to the top of this tree, and neither is Roxanne. You have to do this on your own. Think of it as a training exercise. Your goal is to climb this tree using tree climbing techniques. If you can do that, you'll prove to me that you're serious about my training, Jubiai said with a serious tone, prompting Naruto to look up at the towering tree. You want me to climb this tall tree using just my feet? Fine, no point in complaining. If I'm doing this, I'm going to give it my all, Naruto declared with determination, earning smiles from Jubi and Roxanne. Good, you're starting to grow on me already, kid. Don't worry, Roxanne and I will be waiting for you at the top. Just try not to fall before we can even start your training, Jubi said before leaping up and scaling the tree at incredible speed. Meanwhile, Roxanne smiled at her master and said, Nansama, please be careful. If you need anything or get hungry, just use this, and I will appear at your side in an instant. She handed Naruto a small object that resembled a button. Thanks, Roxanne. Hopefully, I'll reach the top before the day ends, he replied. Roxanne nodded and then vanished in a blur, leaving Naruto alone. He sighed, taking a few steps back. Before running toward the tree. Come on, remember what Kurenai-chan said? Too much chakra, and you'll get blown off. Too little, and you won't stick, Naruto thought as he began his ascent. While he admitted that his chakra control wasn't perfect, he had an abundance of chakra, even more than most full-grown shinobi. Thanks to Kurenai, his control had improved enough to allow him to run up a small tree. His thoughts were interrupted when his foot slipped, causing him to fall to the ground. He quickly stood up, rubbing his back. Ow, I guess I didn't use enough chakra. Come on, Naruto, you can do this. He tried again, this time channeling more chakra into his feet. He managed to ascend a few steps before slipping off the bark once more and landing on the ground. Come on. If you can run up a small tree and escape from a mob, you can do this too. Unbeknownst to him, two pairs of red eyes observed him from a distance, amusement evident in their gaze. Do you think he'll reach the top by sunset? The creatures in this forest are more powerful and aggressive at night, Rachel asked, raising an eyebrow at her sister Veronica, who smiled at Naruto. Yes, I do. I believe he will exceed my expectations and grow from this experience. Besides, this could be beneficial for him, Veronica replied, turning away. But I have business to attend to. Ah, you plan on recruiting that Umbu captain into our ranks. Be careful, sister. It only takes one mistake for that old monkey to expose our existence, Rachel warned, though a hint of amusement lingered in her voice. Veronica nodded in agreement before her form transformed into bats, disappearing from sight. Rachel then settled on the tree bark, watching Naruto's struggle with interest. I hope you keep me entertained, Naruto Uzumaki. At the Umbu headquarters in Konoha, the Umbu commander was worried. For the past few days, he had noticed Kat around the base almost constantly. While he appreciated her dedication as one of his best captains, it was becoming concerning. He understood the reason behind her behavior. It was due to the Jinchuriki. Kat had given him and the third Hokage a report detailing what had happened to Naruto Uzumaki, and to say Hiruzen was upset would be an understatement. The dragon-masked commander could see the pain and heartbreak hidden beneath Kat's mask. She had mentioned that she personally eliminated two of his Umbu who had sided with the mob after Naruto's supposed death. He needed to speak with her soon, otherwise, Kat's mental health would suffer even more. Turning a corner, he saw Kat about to enter her room in the barracks. It was perfect timing. He approached her just as she was about to walk in. Suddenly, a purple katana came dangerously close to his head. Recognition flashed in Kat's eyes, and she quickly sheathed her katana and bowed respectfully. Commander, my apologies for my actions. I didn't realize it was you, Kat said, striving to maintain her composure. It's fine, Kat-san, but please be more careful next time. We wouldn't want any more of our Umbu to meet an untimely end, right? The Umbu commander replied, attempting to lighten the mood, though his words barely helped. But regardless, I wanted to speak to you, Kat, Dragon said. What for, Commander? Kat asked, her voice strained with curiosity. It's about your behavior these past 2 days. While I understand how you must be feeling right now, you can't take it out on our recruits. They had nothing to do with his. Dragon was interrupted when Kat suddenly spoke in an emotionless voice. Naruto woke up to find himself in a very comfortable bed. He could barely remember what happened yesterday when he arrived in the Werecats village, but bits and pieces lingered in his mind. He remembered having a small feast with the Werecats and getting to know Kirin before everything went blank. Sitting up in bed, he looked around the unfamiliar room. There didn't seem to be any danger, which was a relief. He couldn't go one day in his old apartment without someone breaking in and trashing his stuff, possibly even harming him. But here felt not to mention the very soft bed he was lying on. He was about to get up to find Roxanne, but for some reason he couldn't move his lower half. What the? Why can't I move? Naruto exclaimed as he removed the covers from his lower half, staring in shock at Kirin, who was curled up on his stomach like a cat. The werecat's eyes fluttered open as she sat up, stretching like a regular cat, an audible pop following soon after. Ugh, why couldn't you stay asleep for a few more minutes, Naru? I wanted to sleep a bit more. Hey Kirin, what are you doing here? Actually, a better question is where am I? The white-haired Jinchuriki stammered, his face turning red, which made Kirin grin. Well, for one, you're in my room. You ate too much at last night's feast and fell asleep, so I decided to bring you here. Also, please stop shouting. My ears are sensitive, the werecat said, her grin turning mischievous. Oh, could it be that you haven't been inside a girl's room before? A flick to the forehead was her reply, making her yelp in surprise as Naruto used his new arm to do it. He sighed in annoyance. Of course I've been inside a girl's room before. Regardless, can you get off of me? If someone sees us like this, they'll probably get the wrong idea. Naruto-sama, Kirin-sama, are you two awake yet? Master Jubii told me to bring you both to the training grounds to meet with him and Lady Luca. So please get ready. Roxanne trailed off as she walked in and saw Kirin sitting on her new master's lap. Naruto looked a bit embarrassed, while Kirin had a slight blush on her face but smiled at the wolf maid. Naruto-sama, I believe you both are too young for those activities right now. But if you wish, it could. Roxanne tried to speak, her face flushed, only to be cut off by her master. Roxanne, what are you going on about? And what's with the blush? Naruto asked, confused. Sure, Kirin was sitting on his lap, but that was about it. Was it embarrassing for others to see? Yes, but he didn't see anything more meaningful than that, so why was his maid blushing? Master Jubii and Lady Luca are waiting for you too at the base of the tree. Please get dressed and meet them there. Naruto-sama, please come with me so we can freshen you up. Roxanne said, grabbing Naruto by the hand and bolting out of the room. Kirin's grin grew with every passing moment as the vampire and wolfkin left the room. She knew exactly what the maid was thinking. Sure, she was too young for certain things, but Master Jubii felt she needed to know what having a maid entailed, and thus he gave her the talk. Oh, I just know he's going to be a delight to tease. And he looks trustworthy enough. Should I tell him my true name? No, maybe when I see him train for myself. I want to see if he's a hard worker or not, Kirin mused, her grin growing with the prospect of getting another potential advantage against the third apprentice training with Jubii. An hour later, Naruto and Kirin arrived at the meeting place and saw Jubii talking to Luca in the distance. The werecat werewolf noticed their approach and waved. Yo, it looks like you guys made it right on time. Now we can get started. Good to see you again, Naruto. Sorry if I couldn't get to you yesterday, I had some personal stuff to take care of, Luca said to the white-haired vampire, who nodded in understanding. It's alright, Luca-san. Besides, we ran into Jubii, so it's not that big of a deal, Naruto replied, making the werewolf leader smile. Kirin then noticed someone was missing and spoke up. Master, aren't we missing someone? Oh, don't worry, she should be showing up right about now, Jubii said, and not long after, another person entered the clearing, none other than Setsuna. Sorry I'm late, Master Jubii, sister. I overslept again. Setsuna said in a panic while trying to catch her breath. She had to sprint all the way here to avoid being even later. It's fine, Setsuna, you weren't even that late. Just try not to make it a habit, Luca said, her sister nodding as she looked over to Kirin and Naruto, narrowing her eyes at the former. Pussycat, Setsuna greeted with a growl. Washboard, Kirin replied with a mocking grin, irritating the young werewolf. You're just as flat as me. Setsuna barked angrily. True, but at least I'm starting to develop, unlike you, little doggy, the werecat said, making Setsuna see red. But before she could retaliate, Naruto stepped between them, trying to stop the incoming fight. Okay, you two, that's enough. Last time I checked, we're here to train, not fight among ourselves. So let's at least try to get along, Naruto said with an annoyed growl, unaware of the dark aura that surrounded him. All the beastmen could feel a dark power emanating from the vampire, and Jubi looked intrigued. So this is a portion of his power, huh? I can tell it feels wild and untamed. If I can get him to control it, then he'll be a force to be reckoned with, Jubi thought with a bit of excitement. Kirin and Setsuna instantly backed off when they felt Naruto's aura. The workat grew increasingly interested in the white-haired Jinchuriki and decided to pay more attention to him from now on. Setsuna, on the other hand, looked at Naruto with a hint of jealousy. Naruto couldn't quite understand why, but those thoughts faded when the young werewolf huffed and turned away. Whatever, just try and keep up, human. Otherwise, you hold us back, she said. Yeah. Sure, Naruto replied with a deadpan expression as his aura faded. Don't worry, Naruto. She's just annoyed that I told her you would be joining our training sessions, Luka whispered into Naruto's ear. I can see that. Hopefully, today goes well, Naruto thought internally until Jubi spoke up. Alright, you three, we're going to do something a bit different today. Since Naruto will be joining us from now on, we're going to start with a warm-up exercise, said the workat leader, grinning mischievously. Setsuna, Kirin, I want both of you to give me 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and a 10-kilometer run. Naruto, since you're new here, I want you to do double the amount so I can see what your limits are. Naruto stared blankly at Jubi, who was grinning wickedly at him. Well, did I stutter? I suggest you get to it, brat. After all, those two are already starting, so I suggest you get moving. What have I gotten myself into? Naruto groaned as he began his exercises at a surprisingly fast pace. He quickly found himself using only his organic arm for push-ups, not feeling the need to use his new arm. By the time he realized it, he was already halfway through his push-ups. Jubi and Luka watched Naruto with a mix of curiosity and satisfaction. The workat had a feeling it would turn out like this, given the strength the boy unknowingly possessed. Thanks to his Uzumaki lineage, Naruto already had enough chakra and stamina to rival most ninjas in Konoha. This was further enhanced when Veronica turned him into a vampire, boosting his physical abilities even more. With his status as a Jinchuriki, Naruto had enough energy to outperform anyone in Konoha in terms of physical ability. Well, there was that one jounin with the bowl-cut hair and green spandex, but he preferred not to think about that human right now. He was so lost in thought that he almost missed the moment when he and Kirin lay on their backs and started doing sit-ups, with the workat looking slightly fatigued. Setsuna took a bit longer to finish her push-ups and was already starting to tire. Her progress is stagnating. At this rate, she won't get any stronger if this keeps up, Luka whispered to Jubi, who nodded in agreement. Yeah, I've noticed that for a while now. It doesn't seem like she's been making any progress. Sure, she's just a 7-year-old child, but even werewolves her age can handle small workouts without getting too tired. I can tell she's putting her all into her training, but she's just not improving for some reason. I was hoping that including Naruto in the training would help her a bit, Jubi said somberly. Let's just hope this doesn't remain the case for long. I can't always be around to protect her, and the humans can be quite ruthless with our kind, Luka replied seriously, making Jubi nod in agreement as they watched Naruto and Kirin finish their sit-ups and start running, with Setsuna falling slightly behind. I really hope you're right, Luka. I'd hate to see little Setsuna face the harsh world outside without the strength to fight back, Jubi thought as they continued to observe the training session. They could see frustration in Setsuna's eyes, and Luka was starting to worry for her younger sister. By the end of the training, the group had completed the exercise, with Naruto looking the least bit tired. Kirin was sweating slightly but wasn't too fatigued compared to Setsuna, who was a drenched mess, panting heavily but managing to finish the exercise, albeit barely. Alright, good. All of you completed that small workout, Jubi said with a small smirk. Oh please, that wasn't even a workout. That was just an ordinary Friday for me, Kirin said with a victorious smile. Setsuna began to catch her breath as she spoke. Why yeah, now we see can do more advanced training, right sensei? Right on the money, Setsuna. But first, Naruto, how are you feeling? Anything different? Jubi asked with concern. I feel good? No, good isn't the right word. I feel great. I guess I needed that workout to get my blood pumping, Naruto said with an excited grin. That's because of all the advantages you have, kid, Jubi replied, causing a confused look to appear on Naruto's face as he elaborated. From what I gathered from Veronica, you're part of the Uzumaki clan, known for having large chakra reserves even at an early age. That, combined with the fact that you're a vampire now, has increased your reserves and stamina to the point where you can outrun most ninjas as you are now. And while I don't know what that arm of yours does, I can only assume it has enhanced your physical strength. Is that why you doubled the training for him? Kirin asked. Yes, it is. I wanted to see what his limits were, and now my interest has piqued, Jubi said, an evil grin forming on his face. So until I can find that limit, you'll be training with me alone. Naruto felt a cold chill run down his spine at that grin. But what about Kirin and Setsuna? They need training too, and I don't want to take away from their training because I'm here. That's what I'm here for, Naruto. While you're with Jubi, I'll be here giving those two a tough time. Speaking of which, let's go you two. You're not going to get stronger by just standing here, are you? Luca said with a mischievous grin as she dragged both Kirin and Setsuna by their tails to a different section of the forest. Both beastkin wore expressions of fear as they were pulled away, leaving Naruto and Jubi alone. The werewolf looked at his student with a gleam in his eye. Let it be said now, no. Welcome to hell, and I hope you survive. Naruto had a feeling he was going to hate it here. He just knew it. Pain was all Naruto felt when Roxanne laid him on his bed in the werewolf's tribe. Although the pain was slightly dulled thanks to his healing factor, it still hurt significantly. He figured that Jubi was a strict teacher, but he never would have thought that the werewolf leader's training could be so grueling. It was far worse than what Anko had put him through at one point, and the snake mistress was probably the craziest person he had ever met. However, he understood why the training was harsh. He needed to get stronger. He didn't want to be a burden on anyone here, and this was the only way for him to achieve that. Roxanne entered the bedroom, rolling in a cart of food. The heavenly aroma wafting from the cart made Naruto's stomach grumble, causing him to groan in embarrassment. Roxanne giggled a bit before she began feeding him, much to his further embarrassment. He was about to protest, but she spoke up, reminding him that he was still recovering from his training with Jubi and needed to rest and regain his strength for tomorrow. Naruto acknowledged her concern and asked, By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, just how dangerous are the beasts in this forest? Roxanne explained that they ranked the beasts into several categories, using her magic to form letters ranging from F to S. There was even an image of a skull with glowing red eyes next to the S. She clarified that each beast had a class ranking, with F class being the weakest and S class being the strongest. The monsters outside the restricted zone were all considered F class, and the strength of the beasts increased the further one ventured inside. Naruto pointed at the skull symbol and asked about it. Roxanne informed him that those types of beasts were unique, far outclassing even the strongest S-class monsters. They could take down a horde of S-class monsters with ease. She warned him to promise that if he ever encountered a danger beast, he would flee on sight, as Lady Veronica had entrusted her with his safety. Naruto sighed but nodded, agreeing to avoid danger beasts until he was ready to fight them. Roxanne smiled and encouraged him to get some rest, reminding him of the big day ahead with Jubi. After she left the room, Naruto felt a chill at the thought of Jubi's training. As he was about to sleep, he heard a faint noise outside. Curiosity piqued, he walked to the window and saw a familiar girl sneaking through the village. It was Setsuna, and he wondered why she was trying to leave. Didn't Lucas say they would be staying for a while? Feeling something was off, he quietly sneaked out of his room to follow her. When he reached the base of the tree, he saw Setsuna heading further east into the forest. He followed her at a distance, watching as she stopped and began to look around, seemingly searching for something. Her gaze locked onto an average-sized mutated moose with large glowing red antlers, black fur, and a long scorpion-like tail. Setsuna crouched down, channeling her magic into her hands, forming claws made of crystallized ice. Naruto realized this was one of her abilities as an ice wolf. From what Roxanne had told him, Ice wolves could manipulate ice for large-scale attacks or create weapons, often using this ability to enhance their claws for extra power. Suddenly, Setsuna lunged at the mutated moose, aiming for its throat. The moose sensed her intent and narrowly dodged, causing her to skid across the ground. Frustrated, she muttered to herself that she needed to work on her stealth. Unexpectedly, the moose charged at her, its horns igniting with fire. Naruto watched with concern, but Setsuna jumped high into the air, landing on the beast's back. She aimed to slice through its neck, but the tail lashed out at her, attempting to inject its poison. Anticipating this, Setsuna swiftly sliced off the moose's tail, which caused it to scream in pain. Seizing the opportunity, she grabbed the moose's red horns and tore them off before slicing through its neck with her ice-covered hands. Naruto was in awe of Setsuna's skill. He wondered if he would be able to take down beasts like that if he continued his training with BGMI. As she panted slightly, Setsuna mumbled under her breath that it was a good start, but not enough, estimating that the moose was probably only a D-class beast, maybe even C-class if they were pushing it. I need to get stronger and faster, otherwise, that stupid cat and vampire will just keep getting stronger without me. The ice wolf was about to skin her prey and possibly take the dead moose back to the Werkat tribe when a deathly roar echoed throughout the forest, blowing back multiple trees. Setsuna and Naruto had to cover their faces as a large gust of wind hit them full force, and the air suddenly grew tense. Multiple loud rumbles could be heard as they got closer to Setsuna's location, causing her to shake in fear. After a few minutes, the beast finally emerged from the thick foliage, and Setsuna's fear increased tenfold at the sight of it. Naruto understood why, considering the creature practically towered over most of the trees in the forest. Its massive form loomed over the clearing, with a snout-like mouth adorned with sharp teeth and glowing crimson, pupilless eyes that looked at Setsuna like she was its next meal. Jet-black scales covered its arms, with large spikes extending from its elbows to its shoulders. 2 pairs of wings adorned its back, and a large tail with a trident tip extended from its tailbone. Naruto looked at the beast and couldn't help but think about the similarities it had to a dragon. But this creature was clearly not a dragon. While its arms and legs suggested otherwise, the torso area was covered in a thick blanket of black fur, the same shade as its scale-clad limbs. And oh, why here? What is a behemoth doing all the way out here in the C-class section of the forest? Setsuna exclaimed, her voice trembling with fear as the identified behemoth's dominating black aura flared, making Setsuna and Naruto almost faint from the pressure. At that moment, Kyubi finally woke up from her nap and spoke in Naruto's mind. Naruto, what is going on? I just woke up to a huge blast of killing intent. KQ? I just followed one of my training partners, and now we're looking at something. I think Setsuna called it a behemoth, Naruto replied, causing Q's eyes to widen in shock. A behemoth? Here. But I thought they all went extinct. I guess there were still a few of them left in the world, Q said, surprise evident in her voice, which made Naruto curious. Okay, what exactly is a behemoth supposed to be? Are they strong? Naruto asked, receiving a mental nod of affirmation from Q. More than you think, Naru. A fully grown behemoth can easily match me in size, and they're just as powerful as my siblings and I. Luckily, this behemoth is still in its adolescent stage, otherwise, you would be in trouble. On paper, I'd say they're at least S-class, if not danger beast level in their prime, Q explained seriously, making Naruto's eyes widen in shock. Before he could question her further, the behemoth suddenly lunged toward Setsuna with its mouth open, ready to devour the ice wolf. Naruto expected Setsuna to at least try to dodge, but she stood there, petrified. Her whole body shook in fear, and tears welled in her eyes as the towering beast approached. Sheet! Naruto sprinted out of his hiding spot and managed to tackle Setsuna out of the way just as the behemoth barreled past them. Setsuna looked up at Naruto with shock and confusion, and he quickly seized the opportunity to speak. What are you standing around for? Come on. They both stood up, and Naruto grabbed Setsuna's hand before sprinting through the forest just as the behemoth recovered from its failed attempt. The beast roared with fury at its meal getting away and chased the pair through the forest. Naruto and Setsuna ran faster than before when they heard the roar behind them. Eventually, they found a hollowed-out tree to hide in, and they both sat down to rest for a moment. Naruto finally caught his breath and said, "That was way too close. Hopefully we can rest for a bit." "What good will that do? The behemoth will find us eventually, we're just delaying our deaths," Setsuna replied, hugging her knees close to her chest. "How can you say that? We can't just let it find us and eat us," Naruto said, bewildered. "Yeah, and we also can't get help either. If we go back to my tribe or the werecat's tribe, the behemoth will just follow us there. Not to mention the tribe could be caught off guard by the behemoth. The only ones who could probably harm a behemoth are probably Master Jubi and my sister," Setsuna informed him. "Then I guess we'll just have to take it out ourselves," Naruto declared, causing the ice wolf to look up at him in shock and disbelief. "Are you crazy? That's an S-class monster out there, borderline danger beast level, and you want to fight it? We would die trying," Setsuna yelled. "Not if we play this smart. Besides, this might be the perfect chance we have to get stronger," Naruto insisted. Setsuna sighed and sat back down. "You're an idiot. There's no point in fighting that thing. Besides, we're only kids. What can we do to an S-class beast?" Naruto sighed and sat next to the ice wolf. "Look, I know you're scared. Believe me, I am too. But if we want to get out of this, then we need to do something." "Then what do you propose we do? You must have a plan if you're insistent on fighting that thing outside," Setsuna said, glaring at him. Naruto sighed again. "No, I don't have a plan yet. But I can't just sit back and do nothing, not anymore. Look, I'm sure you know this by now, but everyone dies, end of story. But that doesn't mean we should just roll over and let it happen. We fight till the very end, you know? And even when you're in a tight spot, it's always okay for someone to step in and lend a hand." "I don't know if I can. I'm weak, and I doubt I'll be able to hurt that thing," Setsuna admitted. The Jinchuriki sighed and patted Setsuna on the head, making her blush a bit. "You're not alone in this, you know. I've got your back. We're fellow students training under the same master after all, right?" Setsuna felt her cheeks flare when Naruto flashed her a foxy grin. For some reason, when she saw that smile, she felt safe. The ice wolf thought about her companion's words before standing up with a look of defiance on her face. "You're right. I'm supposed to be a member of the ice wolf clan, and yet I'm sitting here like a scared puppy. I'm done running. I'm done being left behind by everyone. If I'm going to die, then I'll at least go down fighting, like my sister always says." "Good, but no one is dying today." "Well, except for the beast outside," Naruto said as the beast roared in rage, still searching for the duo. "Okay, so what do we do? I assume you have some kind of plan?" Setsuna asked. Naruto grinned. "Something like that. Just a quick question. How good are you at distracting people?" A few minutes later, the behemoth was starting to get very annoyed. Its prey had been hiding for the past 30 minutes, and it was growing increasingly hungry. Most of the other weaker beasts had been killed when it woke from its long slumber. The girl looked a little weak, but she had enough magic to sustain him for a good while. However, the boy was different. He had enough magic power to increase its strength to the point where it would reach the level of a danger beast, or at least, that's what the others in this forest called them. Luckily, it managed to catch a whiff of the boy and started tracking him. The girl was a bit harder to track, but the boy's energy felt very strange, enough for it to follow him. It could smell the pair nearby, and its stomach growled with animalistic hunger. High in the treetops, Setsuna was lurking, waiting for an opening. This was an S-class monster she was dealing with, so she had to be very careful about how she would buy time. She saw her opening when the behemoth crouched down to take flight, but she had already made her move. Setsuna launched herself off the tree while using her ice magic to create as many sharp objects as she could in the air. Swords, spears, kunai, she used whatever sharp objects she could think of and sent them rocketing into the behemoth's back, or more specifically, its wings. If she took out its wings first, it would limit its movement to the ground. Since the beast was so big, it would make hitting it easier. Flying would just make hitting it harder. "Ice rain," she shouted. The projectiles struck true, hitting the behemoth's extended wings with full force, making the beast roar with rage as it glared up at the ice wolf, which was exactly what Setsuna was hoping for. The moment it looked up, Setsuna covered her hands in ice, taking the form of claws, and swiped her claws against the behemoth's eyes. The beast roared in pain and frustration at the loss of its sight. However, Setsuna noticed something that made her curse inwardly. Damn it, I missed its left eye. That threw off their plan, but not by much. She wasn't going to get greedy and go for the other eye. One was enough for what Naruto had planned. Setsuna landed on a tree on all fours as she waited for the beast to chase her down, which didn't take long. It immediately blitzed toward her, and the ice wolf did a chakra leap toward another tree just as the behemoth rammed into the previous tree she was on before jumping away. The beast, enraged, quickly recovered and followed after Setsuna with rage showing in its one good eye. Soon, the ice wolf stopped when she nearly ran off a small cliff leading to a wide chasm. She started to sweat nervously as the behemoth came into view, charging straight at her. Just as the beast was about to tackle her into the chasm, she jumped high in the air with the help of her ice propelling her upward and behind the behemoth. Just as she predicted, the beast fell off the cliff. The main problem was that the behemoth was using its wings to fly. However, it was starting to become a bit tired for some reason the longer it stayed in the air. Setsuna smirked because she knew exactly why that was the case. Thanks to her ambush earlier, the beast had multiple small holes in its wings, which kept getting bigger the more it tried to fly. Setsuna shouted, "Naruto now!" Naruto came through into the clearing, sprinting toward the still airborne behemoth. "Q! I'm on it," the tailed beast said as she started to pump her chakra into her container. Soon, Naruto's form was covered in a bubbling red chakra cloak in the shape of a fox with one tail, and his left eye turned crimson like his right, but now they both had slit pupils, and his whisker markings took on a more feral appearance. Naruto leaped off the cliff toward the behemoth and sent his fist forward. The shroud acted on its user's command as the arm extended, hitting the behemoth in the face, making the beast roar in agony. It didn't help that the Kyuubi's chakra was very corrosive, making the pain 10 times worse for the behemoth. Naruto took the chance to channel chakra in his lungs before letting out a mighty roar into the beast's face, blowing it back in the process. The effect was immediate. Thanks to the behemoth's tired state, the many holes in its wings, and the pain its face was enduring, the behemoth plummeted into the chasm below. Naruto slid across the ground as his chakra cloak receded, leaving him panting heavily. He managed to catch his breath before muttering, "Wow, that actually worked. I told you my chakra was corrosive. The only reason you can handle it now is that I pumped a small amount of my chakra into you as you aged. Thanks to that, you adapted to my chakra, on top of becoming a vampire," Q said mentally with pride, making Naruto smile tiredly. Naruto was about to thank the vixen until Setsuna barreled into him, sending them both to the floor. "We did it. We actually did it. Your plan worked, Naruto." The ice wolf smiled brightly at him as her tail wagged in excitement. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly before replying, "Hee hee, yeah, I guess it did. I honestly thought it would be able to fly back to land, but it looks like I was wrong. Come on, let's get back to the tribe before someone notices we're gone." Setsuna nodded in agreement as the two started to make their way out of the clearing. However, just as they turned away from the cliff, a large hand suddenly emerged from the cliff and grabbed Setsuna. Naruto and Setsuna's eyes widened with shock and horror when the behemoth began to climb back up from the chasm. However, due to its tired state and having one arm occupied, it started to lose its grip on the ledge, until eventually it fell once more into the chasm, taking Setsuna along with it. "Setsuna!" Naruto screamed as he ran towards the cliff and jumped into the chasm to follow the plummeting beast. "Q, I need you to give me as much chakra as you can." "Naruto, if I do that, then your body might collapse on itself. Your body may have adapted to my chakra, but too much of it might harm you," Q said seriously. "Just do it. I'll worry about the consequences later." Naruto yelled, prompting Q to sigh resolutely as she pumped as much chakra as she could into Naruto's body without causing too much damage. The bubbling red chakra cloak returned instantly, but this time instead of one tail, it now had 3. Naruto's eyes glowed a menacing red as he unconsciously started channeling more of Q's chakra into his right arm. On instinct, a large amount of energy surged through him, hardening around his right arm as he let his momentum carry him toward the falling behemoth. Just as the S-class monster was about to devour Setsuna, its glowing eyes locked onto the descending Jinchuriki. However, it could do nothing as Naruto rocketed toward it like a crimson comet. Divine! Naruto struck the behemoth's chest with full force, his body going through the S-class monster's chest and out of its back. Smasher! Sheer agonizing pain coursed throughout the monster's body as it let go of Setsuna, who screamed as she fell. Naruto used the extendable hands of his chakra cloak to catch the falling ice wolf, pulling her close to his chest. I got you. Setsuna looked at Naruto with a mixture of gratitude and wonder. Thank you. But if I can ask, do you have a way to land safely? We're still plummeting to our deaths after all. I wasn't really thinking that far ahead. Naruto admitted, inwardly cursing himself for his carelessness. He looked down at the approaching ground and saw a large body of water. Hang on. We're landing in that lake over there. Soon they reached the bottom of the chasm, and the pair landed in the water. The descending behemoth wasn't so fortunate, landing on the hard ground. Naruto and Setsuna emerged from the water and managed to reach the shore, both of them lying on the soft grass, panting heavily. Naruto groaned as the Kyuubi's chakra receded. Is it dead? Setsuna sat up and looked at the S-class monster. If the blood coming out of its mouth wasn't an indication, the huge hole in its chest certainly was. She knew for a fact that the behemoth was not getting up. Yes, it looks dead to me. The ice wolf laid back down tiredly as she spoke. We did it. We'd actually killed an S-class monster by ourselves. She expected a reply from her new friend, but instead, she got silence. She looked over to where Naruto was and saw him convulsing on the ground. Her relief turned to panic as she rushed towards him. Naruto, are you okay? Why yeah, I'm just suffering some backlash from using too much of the Kyuubi's chakra. I should be fine in a bit, so just give me a second, okay? Naruto said, and Setsuna nodded as she sat next to him, looking at the behemoth's lifeless body. I still can't believe that you're the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi. I originally thought Lady Veronica was exaggerating, but she was telling the truth after all. Is it possible for me to meet her in the future? Setsuna asked. Maybe. It really depends if she wants to meet you or not. But from what I'm hearing from her, I think she likes you, Naruto mentioned, making the ice wolf smile. I appreciate the praise, but we should probably get back to the village. Although, Setsuna looked at the behemoth's corpse again. How are we going to get that thing back to the village? Naruto tried to come up with a solution until Q spoke up in his mind. Naruto-kun, let me take over for a bit. I have a few sealing techniques so you can get that thing to the village easily. The vampire nodded, closed his eyes, and soon his eyes were replaced with that of the Kyuubi's. Q took a moment to stretch her limbs to get used to her new surroundings. No, doesn't feel the same. I wish my real body was out here, but I guess this is the next best thing. Naruto? Are you okay? Setsuna asked with worry. For some reason, the scent of the young vampire changed. He had a mixture of different smells on him, primarily of a vampire, the lingering scent of a human, a kitsune, and the stench of death. But now, he primarily smelled like a full-blooded kitsune, which confused her. Relax, child. Naruto is just resting for a bit, so I'm in control for the time being. I'll take care of the behemoth's corpse, so no need to worry, Q said through Naruto's body as she walked to the beast. Setsuna's eyes widened in realization. Are you the Kyuubi no Kitsune? Yes, I am. But please keep this a secret for now. I'm sure Veronica made it clear what will happen if you tell this information to anyone, the tailed beast mentioned while placing her hand on the behemoth, making Setsuna nod rapidly. Of course. This secret is safe with me, Kyuubi-sama. The ice wolf said while standing at attention. Good. Also, you did an excellent job dealing with this beast. Should you choose to do so, I'll allow you to reveal your true name to my vessel, Q said with a grin as she placed a simple storage seal on Naruto's forearm and transferred the corpse into the seal. Setsuna's face turned bright red when she registered the kitsune's words, and she started to sputter incoherently, much to Q's amusement. Take care of Naruto out here, will you? There's only so much I can do on the inside. And word of advice, if you do plan on revealing your true name to my vessel, then be prepared for some competition. With that, Naruto's body went limp, forcing Setsuna out of her embarrassment as she caught the vampire in her arms. Naruto woke up with a jolt, looking around in confusion. And what just happened? Did Q take control? Kyubi-sama did something to the behemoth and made it disappear. I think it has something to do with that tattoo on your arm, the ice wolf said while pointing at the tattoo. Oh well, I'll ask Q about it later. Let's go back to the village. I'm exhausted, Naruto groaned, and Setsuna nodded as they made their way out of the chasm, trying to reach the Workhat tribe. Morning arrived at the Workhat tribe, and panic spread among the members as they realized that 2 individuals had gone missing. Both Luka and Jubi searched everywhere for Naruto and Setsuna, but their efforts yielded no results. Jubi quickly mobilized his tracker team to find the pair, and they tracked them outside the village, much to both his and Luka's horror. Roxanne was particularly worried. Her master and little Setsuna were outside the tribe alone. The forest was dangerous, especially at night when higher-ranked monsters roamed. Her worry quickly turned to fear as she realized that there could be dangerous beasts out there, and both the vampire and ice wolf might encounter one. The leaders were preparing to take a team to track down the pair. Luka was the first to voice her frustration. I can't believe those 2 went out on their own at night. Don't they know how dangerous it is out there? Luka, calm down. I'm just as worried as you are, but we can't just rush out there looking for them. We have to stay calm and hope for the best, Jubi replied seriously. I know, but I'm just upset that Setsuna went outside at night when I specifically told her not to the day before, Luka said, her frustration evident. That's what kids do. You tell them not to do something, and they just ignore you, the Workhat leader sighed before turning to his subordinates. All right, everyone, we're heading out. Stay alert, and we'll find those 2 in no time. Everyone nodded and prepared to exit the village until Roxanne noticed 2 figures approaching the village gates. Wait, what's that? Everyone turned to where the wolfkin was pointing and realized it was the duo they had been searching for, both covered in cuts and bruises. Naruto was being supported by Setsuna, and they walked into the village with tired smiles. We're back? Naruto said with a nervous chuckle, causing everyone to stare at him in disbelief. Luka approached the pair, her bangs shadowing her eyes, while Setsuna looked at her sister nervously. Sister, I can explain, Setsuna began, but was cut off when Luka suddenly tapped her on the head with a fist covered in ice. She winced in pain and rubbed her head, only for Luka to pull her into a tight hug. Phew, what were you thinking going out there at night? You know how dangerous it is. Luka exclaimed, her worry evident. Setsuna struggled to breathe in her sister's embrace and spoke weakly, Sister, I can't breathe. Naruto tried to slip away, but his ear was suddenly grabbed by none other than Roxanne, who was giving him a disapproving look. Naruto-sama, where do you think you're going? A chill ran through him at the sight of the sweet smile on his maid's face. You 2 have a lot of explaining to do, and we want all the details. It's not Naruto's fault. I'm the one who left the tribe first, and Naruto followed me to make sure I was all right. This was all my fault, Setsuna explained, defending Naruto. I see. But regardless, you both will still be punished for leaving at night and causing everyone to worry. For the next few days, you will help bring back food for the tribe. Well, once you fully recover, Jubi stated seriously. Wait, really? That shouldn't be a problem then. While we were out, we managed to kill a behemoth. That should be enough, right? Setsuna mentioned, gaining everyone's attention. A behemoth? There's no way you 2 killed an S-class, borderline danger beast-level monster, Kirin said as he approached them. I'd have to agree with her, you 2. Especially at your age, I highly doubt you'd be able to kill one, Roxanne added, doubt evident in her voice as others nodded in agreement. Naruto smirked and channeled chakra into the seal on his arm, producing a huge puff of smoke behind him. When the smoke cleared, everyone gasped in astonishment. Lying on the ground behind Naruto and Setsuna was a behemoth with a large hole in its chest. The crowd stared at Naruto and Setsuna in disbelief as the two smiled victoriously and gave a peace sign to the surrounding tribesmen. "That's impossible! At such a young age!" Roxanne exclaimed in awe. "How did you manage to kill a behemoth?" Luca asked, rushing to examine the beast's corpse. "We'll worry about that later. Right now, this is the perfect opportunity," Jubi announced, turning to his tribesmen. "To celebrate the safe return of my students, we will use this beast to feed. Cooks, start prepping your tools. It's time for a big feast." Everyone cheered in approval as Naruto and Setsuna smiled at the sight. Kirin approached the pair and spoke up. "Wow, Setsuna, I don't think I've ever seen a behemoth before. I heard they were strong, but I didn't think you'd have the courage to fight it." "Well, you're right. I would have tried to run away if it weren't for Naruto convincing me to stay and fight," Setsuna admitted. Hee hee, "I thought it would be better to go down fighting than to die somewhere no one would find us. I've done enough running away. Now I plan on getting stronger. This is my first step in the right direction," Naruto declared, his eyes filled with determination. Setsuna and Kirin both blushed as they looked at Naruto, but they smiled at him. Roxanne finally spoke up. "Naruto-sama, as much as I want to congratulate you on your accomplishment, I must ask that you not do this again. If Lady Veronica were to find out that you were hurt, she would be devastated." Naruto felt a pang of guilt at Roxanne's words, but she gently rubbed his head. "That being said, congratulations on your first successful hunt, Naruto-sama." Just then, Luca approached the group with a wide grin, holding a mug of drink in her hand. "Come on, everyone, what's the holdup? The party isn't going to start itself. We need our main pair for the celebration." "I swear she gets drunk the second she sees alcohol," Setsuna groaned with a sigh at her big sister's antics. "Oh, come on, little sis. You know you still love me. Now come on, let's get this party started," Luca said with a slurred voice as she pulled the group toward the feast that was about to take place. Hours later, the feast was in full swing as the cooks prepared the meat from the behemoth's carcass, while men, women, and children danced to the music playing. The adults drank merrily, especially Luca, who was celebrating because her baby sister had just helped kill an S-class beast. Meanwhile, Naruto and Setsuna sat at a nearby table surrounded by both werewolves and werewolves. Setsuna was devouring a large chunk of the behemoth's cooked leg, squealing in delight at the taste. "I never thought behemoths could taste so good. I guess when you're in the werewolf tribe, almost everything tastes amazing." "You're right about that. Just try not to go overboard, okay?" Naruto said while eating a slightly smaller piece of leg, making Setsuna nod in agreement. When they finished, they sighed. In content, just as Kirin approached their table. "Wow, I guess you two were hungry after last night. Fighting a high-tier monster can do that to you." "You have no idea," Naruto replied, drinking grape juice from his cup since he was too young to drink alcohol. "I'm still having trouble accepting that you guys managed to kill a behemoth," Kirin said, sipping her own cup of juice. "I know. It just showed up out of nowhere when I was dealing with C-class beasts in the forest. That was when Naruto showed up and saved me from getting eaten," Setsuna said, a small blush creeping onto her cheeks as she glanced at the white-haired Jinchuriki. "I see. In any case, I'm going to get some more food. Do you guys want anything?" Kirin asked, but the duo shook their heads. "Oh well, suit yourselves. This behemoth is tasty, and I want to eat as much as I can before it's all gone. You never know when we'll be able to have this again." With that, the werewolf ran off to get more food, leaving Naruto and Setsuna alone once again. Naruto broke the silence. "Well, she's energetic, isn't she?" "Yeah, I guess you're right," Setsuna replied absently, briefly thinking about the words of a certain kitsune. She looked at Naruto with a questioning gaze. "Naruto, can I ask you something?" Sure, go ahead," the Jinchuriki said while eating more of his food. "Back when we were being chased, you could have easily left me to die in that tree. Why didn't you?" the ice wolf asked nervously. "What kind of question is that? Why would I leave you to die? I won't turn my back on someone who doesn't deserve it. Plus, we're friends, aren't we?" We have to watch each other's backs, Naruto replied, raising an eyebrow. Friends? Setsuna questioned, surprised. Yeah. Well, I'd like to think we're friends. But regardless, you're important to me now, and I'm not going to abandon you just because you gave up. I'll just have to knock some sense into you again until you get it through that head of yours. Just try to have my back too, and I promise to always have yours, Setsuna. Naruto said with a smirk while drinking more grape juice, unaware of how his words affected the ice wolf. Setsuna's heart began to race as she looked at the vampire next to her. She couldn't help but think about Kyuubi's words as her blush deepened. Should you choose to do so, I'll allow you to reveal your true name to my vessel. Take care of Naruto out here, will you? There's only so much I can do on the inside. Also, word of advice, if you do plan on revealing your true name to my vessel, be prepared for some competition. She made her decision. This was the person she wanted to be with. Sure, they were too young for romantic gestures, but it wouldn't hurt to get a head start on winning the Jinchuriki's heart. Nayuta. Did you say something, Setsuna? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow, confused by the happiness on her face. My true name. It's Nayuta. Call me that from now on, okay? Nayuta said, a large blush on her face. Alright then. I look forward to spending more time with you, Nayuta, Naruto replied with a smile. The newly named Nayuta beamed happily before hugging the vampire's arm. Naruto was confused by the sudden affection, but he welcomed it nonetheless. Unbeknownst to the white-haired Jinchuriki, Nayuta's declaration had solidified her position in his future. If Naruto ever discovered what revealing her true name meant, Nayuta wouldn't be worried. After all, he had accepted her for who she was. From the stories she had heard about humans from her sister, they were greedy, cruel, arrogant, and selfish. But Naruto was different. He didn't ostracize her or the other beastmen, nor did he ridicule her for being weak. Instead, he helped her, pushing her to do more than she thought she was capable of. Yes, she wanted to be with the Jinchuriki for as long as she was alive. But if she was going to be with him, she needed to get stronger. Because just as he had her back, she would have his in return. And that was a promise she intended to keep for days to come. They needed to report to their mistress right away due to the news she had just received from one of her scouts beyond Konoha's borders. Eventually, the figure arrived at her queen's chambers. She was about to knock on the door to hopefully get her queen's attention when an all-too-familiar voice spoke up, filling her with a primal rage. Ah, well, this is unexpected. I half expected you to still be training the recruits at Cinderspire, and yet you're here, a male voice said with an arrogant tone. The figure turned around to see the owner. The man had pale skin, short slicked-back silver hair with a matching goatee, red eyes with slit pupils, and a muscular frame. He wore a black business suit with red trim underneath a black trench coat with a high collar, black dress pants, and brown dress shoes. A long red scarf was wrapped around his neck. Although, this surprise is not unwelcome. Tell me, what brings you to our mistress's chambers, my dear Asagi? He said mockingly, making the now identified Asagi narrow her eyes in disgust at the sight of the man. He was not worthy of being called a vampire like her. He was nothing but trash. Asagi was a mature and beautiful woman with pale skin, long dark blue hair with spiky bangs, red eyes, pointed ears, and an hourglass figure that put most of the female vampires in Cinderspire to shame. She wore a high-collared intricate black dress with gold trim that hugged her wide hips, exposing her figure, wide sleeves with red frills, black garter belt stockings, and a collar adorned with small black feathers. Edwin Black. Asagi growled out with disgust. Almost every vampire knew who this man was, and nearly all of them wanted him dead. Asagi was one of those individuals, and for very good reason. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, my dear. I only came to have a little chat with our mistress. You're more than welcome to join us if you wish, Black said, enjoying the barely restrained anger Asagi was showing toward him. Don't patronize me. I should end you right here and now, Asagi said, her eyes glowing menacingly as a dark blue aura surrounded her body. I'm afraid I can't allow that, Asagi-sama. If you wish to fight Black-sama, then you'll have to go through me first, a female voice spoke, catching Asagi's attention as she looked behind Edwin. Coming up to Edwin's side was another beautiful woman with dark skin, long pink hair that split at the end and reached her lower back, golden eyes, and a curvaceous body. She wore a black halter top that revealed the bottom half of her figure, a black miniskirt that hugged her wide hips, black and purple elbow gloves, black and purple thigh boots, and a high-collared red shoulder cape that reached her knees. She held a golden sword in her hand that blazed with purple fire. Why if it isn't the snake's lapdog? I see you're still the same obedient tool as always, Ingrid, Asagi said, with the now-named Ingrid glaring at the vampire that threatened her master. I could say the same to you, Igawa. You have no right to criticize me when you're in the same position as I am as Veronica's right hand, Ingrid said, flaring her aura as small flickers of purple flames surrounded her body. Asagi narrowed her eyes further as her aura increased. That's Lady Veronica to you, demon. Edwin was amused by the sight of the vampire and Hell Knight on the verge of fighting. He would have let them tear each other apart, if not for a suffocating pressure that weighed down on all of them. Ingrid and Asagi could barely breathe due to the pressure. Edwin, on the other hand, could handle it better than the others, but just barely. Soon, an all-too-familiar voice spoke up in a cold tone. And what, pray tell, are you all doing outside of my chambers? Everyone looked behind Asagi where the voice originated and saw Veronica Alucard herself, looking at her subjects with cold, detached eyes. However, Asagi noticed that her glare was more focused on Edwin Black than on herself and Ingrid. My chambers are not a place for idle conversation. Had I been inside and you interrupted my slumber, none of you would be standing here as we speak. Edwin quickly straightened up and bowed toward the ruler of Cinderspire, although it seemed more forced. Forgive me, my lady. I merely wish to converse with you in private. You wouldn't mind that, would you? Veronica narrowed her eyes dangerously before her aura subsided, much to Asagi and Ingrid's relief. Unfortunately, I'm quite busy at the moment. Whatever you wish to speak of, Black, it will have to be at a later date. When Edwin heard Veronica's dismissive tone, his eye began to twitch dangerously, and he felt a pang of rage shoot through him like a raging fire, but he suppressed it, if only barely. Edwin despised Veronica with a burning passion. When the previous ruler of the monsters had died, the throne was left open for all to take. Even the lowly half-breeds could claim the throne for themselves. However, due to certain factors, Edwin was next in line to take the throne and rule over everyone, being the most powerful vampire at the time. He would have been the ruler for years to come, for the rest of his immortal life, if it hadn't been for this throne-stealing, glory-seeking woman standing in front of him, looking down on him like he was nothing. Just as he was about to claim the throne for himself, Veronica had challenged him for the right to rule. If only he hadn't been so arrogant, so confident in his victory at the time, he could have easily taken Veronica as his queen and ruled over the human world. Edwin had originally planned on making Asagi his eternal wife before ruling over all of monster kind, but unfortunately, Veronica got to her first, so the former kunoichi was far out of his reach. However, he had plans in the making. He would take his rightful place as king soon, very soon. Very well, Lady Veronica. I shall take my leave at once, Edwin said as he started walking away, with Ingrid breaking eye contact with Asagi as she followed her master. But before Edwin left, he remembered something and stopped to ask his question. Before I take my leave, I wish to ask you something, my lady. Make it quick, Black. I have business to attend to, Veronica said, annoyance evident in her voice. Last night, one of my behemoths in the werecat's territory was suddenly killed by an unknown entity. From what my scouts reported, they detected faint traces of blood magic. You wouldn't happen to know about that, would you? Edwin asked, curiosity piqued. If he could find the person responsible for his behemoth's death, he might be able to make a useful ally in the future. Unfortunately, this is the first I'm hearing about this. If something like this happens again, I will send my best scouts to investigate the matter, Veronica informed the vampire. That was a complete lie, of course. She knew exactly who was responsible for the behemoth's death, and it made her smile inwardly, knowing that her future king was already growing stronger. I see. In that case, I shall take my leave. Come, Ingrid, Edwin beckoned to the dark-skinned girl, who nodded and followed him out of sight. Asagi sighed in annoyance. Finally, they're gone. I can't stand that snake. Out of curiosity, Lady Veronica, why don't you just kill him right now to save us all the trouble? Asagi asked, genuinely curious. Simple. If I were to kill him now, all of the monsters that share Edwin's ideals would revolt against me and continue his legacy. This could spark a civil war between his followers and my own, which would undoubtedly attract the attention of the humans above. When that happens, they'll likely join the skirmish, take advantage of the ensuing chaos, and wipe out everyone on both sides. I simply can't allow that, which is why I'm taking my time dealing with him, the Vampire Queen explained, causing understanding to cross Asagi's face. I see. In any case, I have important news to share with you, my lady. Our scouts have reported that one of the Sannin named Orochimaru has created a hidden village called Otogakure. We have reason to believe that he's planning something, and it involves the Leaf Village. Asagi informed her mistress while producing a stack of papers and handing them to Veronica, who took them and began to read. I see. I want our spies to continue monitoring this new village. I want full updates on whatever that treacherous snake is planning, Veronica said, with Asagi nodding as she took back the papers. At once, my lady, Asagi replied with a bow, preparing to leave until her mistress stopped her. Before you go, Asagi, I need your assistance with a certain matter, Veronica said as she opened the door to her chambers. Of course. How can I assist you, my lady? Asagi asked with a bow, eager to be of service to her queen. I need you to help train a few recruits in the near future, Veronica informed her right hand before explaining why she had left Cinderspire and about Naruto. In the Workat tribe, Naruto was busy dodging multiple trees being thrown at him from uphill, courtesy of Jubi, who had strapped paper bombs to the tree trunks. Each time Naruto dodged one tree, it exploded behind him, distorting his perception as he prepared to dodge another. Naruto wore a simple red shirt with the Uzumaki clan symbol on the chest, brown shorts, and blue shinobi sandals with white ankle wrappings. The shirt exposed the black wrappings on his right arm, and he wore a fingerless glove on his left hand. The Workat leader was trying to get him to use his blood manipulation abilities as he had with the Behemoth. The only problem was that no matter how many times he tried, Naruto couldn't replicate what he had done with the Behemoth 2 nights ago without using the Kyuubi's chakra. After a while of thinking, Jubi decided to force Naruto into a life-or-death situation by throwing trees with high-grade explosive tags down the hill toward him. Although Naruto could use the Divine Smash, he managed to use his blood manipulation abilities on a smaller scale, enhancing his body's capabilities and increasing his blood flow to create weapons. Naruto's eyes glowed red as blood coalesced into the palm of his right hand, forming a sword made completely of blood. Just as another tree was about to hit him, Naruto brought his blade down and split the tree in half. A loud explosion echoed behind him, and he sank to his knees, panting heavily as the blood blade returned to liquid and re-entered his body. Good, you're getting faster now. I guess putting you in that situation really did help, didn't it? Jubi said cheekily, appearing in front of Naruto in a body flicker. You know, old man, if this training wasn't helping me get stronger, I'd call you insane, Naruto panted, barely managing to stand. Hey, if it works, it works. Anyway, let's take a break. We could probably get some food back in the tribe, Jubi suggested, but his musings were interrupted when they heard shuffling. Both the vampire and the Workat looked at the nearby bush with narrowed eyes until a familiar werewolf emerged from the foliage. Nayuta appeared with a happy smile upon seeing Naruto. She held a basket in her hands, and the training duo could immediately smell the heavenly aroma coming from it. There you two are. We had some leftover food back at the tribe, so my sister let me bring this to you, Nayuta said as she laid the basket down to reveal its contents. Naruto drooled slightly at the sight of food and smiled softly at the ice wolf while patting her head gently. Thanks, Nayuta. You're a lifesaver. I'm starving right now. Nayuta blushed slightly, but her smile widened as her tail began to wag. Jubi smirked at the sight of the pair acting affectionately. Luca had told him about Nayuta's boldness at the feast yesterday, and the Workat was impressed by her courage to reveal her true name to someone she had just met. He allowed her to continue training, but it was much more challenging than before. However, to the surprise of both Luca and Jubi, Naruto managed to complete the training with relative ease compared to before. She was even able to keep up with Kirin during the training session, much to her joy. Eventually, the group sat down to eat, with Naruto sitting next to the Jinchuriki. Soon, Jubi spoke up. Your blood manipulation abilities are starting to come together nicely. Since you don't have much control over your abilities, when we pick back up, I'll have you make small weapons with your blood. When you feel more comfortable, we'll start working our way up to bigger objects. Naruto nodded while eating his food as Naruto asked if he could perform the attack he used against the Behemoth yet. Unfortunately, no. I've tried to do that attack again, but no matter how many times I try, it ends up in failure. The only thing I can do is keep training until I can use it again, for now anyway, Naruto replied, making Naruto nod in understanding. Hey, don't sell yourself short, kid. At the rate you're going, you might be able to perform that attack soon. You've already figured out how to make weapons from your blood, you just need to learn how to enhance yourself with it. I have no doubt you'll figure it out soon, Jubi encouraged, making Naruto feel a bit better. So Naruto, how's the food? The cooks back at the tribe wanted to know what you thought about it, Naruto asked, although Naruto was a bit confused when he saw the ice wolf blush. It's really good like always. I don't know what it is, but something tastes different. I can't put my finger on it though, Naruto said as he took a bite of his sandwich with extra corned beef. Now that you mention it, it does taste a bit strange. Naruto, do you know who made this food? Jubi asked with curiosity. Oh, it was me that made the food. Although I did have some help thanks to Roxanne teaching me how to cook properly, Naruto informed them, her face flushed with embarrassment, making Naruto look at her with wonder. You helped make this? This is really good, Naruto said, eating his food with more vigor, which made the ice wolf smile at the praise. Come now, you two are too young to be flirting like that. You'll have plenty of time for that when you're both 18, Jubi teased, causing Naruto to choke on his food. Naruto's face turned bright red due to the implications of Jubi's words. What are you saying, old man? Naruto managed to shout after Naruto quickly handed him some water. Jubi laughed at their expense and was about to continue when a loud rustling in the nearby bushes caught everyone's attention. They went on guard as Jubi got into a stance, Naruto made a sword from his blood, and Naruto covered her hands in a thick layer of ice, forming claws. Eventually, something came rushing through the foliage past the trio. They looked back at the basket of food, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at the sight of a little girl crouching down and sniffing the basket Naruto had brought. The girl looked to be around Naruto and Naruto's age, with messy medium-length black hair that reached a little past her shoulders, purple eyes, and a petite build. She wore a black crop top with gold trim and black shorts. Like Naruto, the girl had wolf ears on her head and a long bushy tail, but unlike Naruto's, this girl's tail was black. Her arms and legs were also covered in fur, typical for most beastkin. The little wolf girl sniffed the basket intently before a look of excitement crossed her face as drool formed at the corners of her mouth. A food. That smells so good. Naruto instantly recognized the girl. Delta? What are you doing so far away from the tribe? The newly identified Delta spun around and spotted Naruto. She smiled happily and pounced on Naruto, hugging her tightly, her tail wagging furiously. Naruto. Delta thought she smelled your scent somewhere. Sigh. It would be Delta, wouldn't it? Don't do that again, kid. You nearly got your head cut off, Jubi said with a laugh as he put away his swords. You two know this girl? Naruto asked, relaxing his stance and dismissing his sword. Yes, we do. Naruto, this is Delta, a friend I made in the werewolf tribe, Naruto explained as Delta let go of the ice wolf and got in front of Naruto's face. Hi, I'm Naruto, he greeted, feeling a bit nervous at having his personal space invaded by a stranger. He was confused when Delta started sniffing him out of nowhere. What are you doing? After a minute of sniffing, Delta grinned widely and jumped onto his shoulders, surprising him and causing him to stumble under her weight. You smell weird, but Delta likes you. Let's be friends, Ruko. I said my name is Naruto. And get off of me. Naruto shouted, trying to get the excited werewolf off of him. Sorry about her, Sai. Delta tends to get overly excited when she meets new people. You'll get used to it the more you're around her, Naruto said, giggling at Naruto's situation. Alright, that's enough, Delta. If you're hungry, then help yourself to some food. We have plenty, Jubi said. The moment Delta heard the word food, she jumped off Naruto's shoulders and bounced on her feet excitedly. Food? What? Is it in that basket? Show me, show me. Naruto sighed at her friend's antics before showing Delta the food inside the basket she had brought. Meanwhile, Naruto looked at Delta with a questioning expression as Jubi spoke. Something on your mind, kiddo? Yeah, a bit. Now that I think about it, she seems a lot more energetic compared to Naruto or any beastkin I've met so far. I'm sure it might be because she is our age, but still, Naruto noted. Ah, so you've noticed. Well, that's how almost half of the beastkin are here. Sometimes, you have cases where they have an over-exuberant personality with a might-makes-right attitude. You do have some cases where the beastkin are very intelligent, but more often than not, you meet people like Delta here, Jubi informed Naruto as Delta eagerly devoured the food. So Delta, why are you here? Shouldn't you be back at our tribe? Naruto asked, confused. Delta paused her eating for a brief moment and looked at her friend with excitement. Delta was hunting for prey. I was getting hungry and couldn't find anything in the forest until I smelled food nearby. Delta, how many times do I have to tell you that you can't be in this forest alone? For all we know, an A-class monster could have caught you off guard. How will we explain that to your parents, kiddo? Jubi asked, noticing Delta's dejected expression. She resembled a sad puppy, in Naruto's opinion. Delta is sorry. She didn't mean to worry everyone. She just wanted to hunt for food for the pack, Delta whimpered, her ears flattening as her mood shifted dramatically. Alright guys, cut her some slack. I'm sure she didn't mean to worry everyone intentionally, Naruto interjected, catching everyone's attention as Delta looked at him intently. Ugh, fine. But I'm still informing your parents about this, Jubi said reluctantly before a smirk crossed his face. Actually, since you're here with us and our break is almost over, why don't we play a little game? Game? Delta loves games. What are we going to play? What is it, what is it? The Ravenette cheered, returning to her previous excitement as her tail wagged eagerly. We're going to play a hunting game. You three are going to hunt down the biggest beasts you can in this forest and bring them back here. Whoever brings back the biggest game by sundown wins and will have first priority on what they want to eat when we go back to my tribe, Jubi explained, igniting a wave of excitement in Delta. Naruto walked next to Jubi and whispered, Hey master, are you sure about this? I mean, I have some experience with hunting, but they're mediocre at best. Why not? Besides, this will be good exercise for you. You can't live in a beastkin tribe and not know how to hunt properly, Jubi replied, giving a pointed look at the young vampire, who chuckled nervously. Think of this as training. You'll do fine, I'm sure of it. Naruto appeared a little excited about the hunting game as well, though not to the same extent as Delta. This seems like fun. Okay, I'm ready when you guys are. Ugh, alright fine, let's get this over with, Naruto grumbled, lining up with the two werewolves. Remember, you three have until sundown for the game. If you don't catch anything within that time, then you lose, Jubi informed the group before raising his hand and swiping it downwards. Start. The moment the game began, everyone ran in different directions, with Delta pulling ahead compared to Naruto and Naruto. Hours later, Naruto was jumping from tree to tree, his eyes darting left and right in search of a good beast to hunt. Unfortunately, after a while, he only managed to find an average-sized deer. He sighed, skinned the animal, and put its hide in his bag before continuing through the forest. Ugh, Delta wasn't lying when she said there's barely any beasts out here. It's honestly unnerving. I can barely sense any beasts in the area, and the ones I can sense are near those two wolves, a certain tailed beast spoke up from within Naruto's mind. Huh, haven't heard from you in a while, Q. How are you doing so far? Naruto asked. A bit bored, actually. The only thing I have to entertain myself in this seal is your memories from the past. Unfortunately, I can't see what you see in real time, thanks to this seal. I'm lucky to even have a mental connection with you right now, Q replied, trying to alleviate her boredom by conversing with her container. Really? Is there anything I can do to help make it less boring for you in there? Naruto asked, feeling hopeful. Q pondered for a moment before responding, there might be. If you come inside the Mindscape and tear a piece of it off, it will loosen the seal, allowing me to see the world through your eyes. It could also give you access to more of my chakra. Sweet, in that case I can, Naruto began, until he was interrupted by a loud roar that reverberated through the forest. What the hell was that? I'd bet one of my tails that it's nothing good. If you need my help, just say the word, and I'll lend you some of my chakra, Q warned, prompting Naruto to nod as he headed toward the direction of the roar. Eventually, Naruto reached a large clearing and scanned the area for the source of the roar. When he spotted a lone figure in a crouching position, he froze at the sight. The creature was enormous, not as big as the behemoth from the other night, but still impressive, with bulging muscles and digitigrade legs. Its body was covered in black fur, with scars littering its arms, legs, and face. Black spikes adorned its back, giving it a more menacing appearance, complemented by red, pointed horns protruding from its head. The most striking feature was a strange red symbol across its chest. Despite its fearsome look, the creature resembled a bear, albeit a demonic, mutated version. What the hell is that? Is that a bear? That can't be a bear. Naruto thought, feeling apprehensive about being caught by the beast so soon. It's hard to tell. I can sense its aura and it feels strange. Whatever that thing is, it's not normal. You might need my chakra for this if you plan on fighting it, but be careful, Q advised seriously. Nervously, Naruto took a closer look at the beast's surroundings. The area was littered with dead corpses, some humanoid and most monstrous. He could barely identify the humanoid remains due to their mangled state. The scent of fresh blood filled his nostrils, and it took considerable willpower not to rush down and drain the blood from some of the beasts near the creature. Wow, that prey is huge. Delta will definitely win if she kills that thing. Naruto nearly jumped when he heard a familiar voice behind him. He turned to see Delta crouching next to him, covered in blood from head to toe. Delta? What the hell are you doing here? Naruto whispered harshly, not wanting the beast to hear them. Delta's here to hunt. I ran out of prey until I heard that roar. That thing is so big and strong. Delta exclaimed excitedly. Damn it, Delta, keep your voice down. Are you trying to let him know we're here? Naruto asked. Naruto-kun? Q attempted to get her container's attention, but her efforts went unnoticed. HM? Why are you hiding, Muriko? Our prey is right there, so let's go get him. Delta, the werewolf, said, her tail wagging with excitement. However, her response only fueled Naruto's anger. Damn it, Delta. Do you not see that thing's aura? If we're not careful, we could die. Naruto. Q tried again to get his attention, but he remained oblivious, which only increased her frustration. Prey is prey. We can kill it. Delta just needs to get close, Delta insisted, ignoring Naruto's angry glare. Finally, Naruto had enough. Damn it, Delta, this isn't a game. That thing could easily kill us if we're not careful. We need to. Naruto! Q roared in his mind, causing him a slight headache. What is it? He yelled internally. Dodge! Q shouted urgently, leaving Naruto confused. When he looked up, he saw a pair of glowing crimson eyes staring at him and Delta, filled with maddening hunger. The bear had found them, thanks to all their shouting. What filled Naruto with fear was the sight of its massive paw swiping down towards them, black claws poised to strike. Naruto's body reacted instinctively as he tackled Delta off the tree they were perched on, hitting the ground hard. They quickly got to their feet and separated, while the bear roared in fury at its prey still being alive. Sheet, I was hoping to get the jump on it, but I guess we're doing this the old-fashioned way, Naruto said, conjuring a sword made of blood in his right hand. Delta, however, was excited. She grinned and extended her claws, getting on all fours. Hee, come on, Jericho. Let's hunt this beast and bring it back to the old man. For the last time, my name is Naruto, you didn't mutt, he screamed. at the werewolf just as the bear charged at them. Naruto dodged to the side as the beast swiped its left paw downwards, while Delta nimbly jumped between the gaps in its fingers, thanks to her small size. She began running up the bear's arm on all fours, aiming for its face. The bear, seeing this, grew angry just as a spike on its body began to glow ominously purple. Delta noticed just in time as the spike suddenly elongated, nearly piercing her skull if not for her quick reflexes. She reached the bear's face and smirked, bringing her claws down towards its eyes. However, before she could strike, the bear swatted her away with one of its massive hands, sending her crashing to the ground. Miraculously, Delta managed to get back on her feet, albeit barely. The bear's strike felt like a powerful jutsu, and blood trickled down her face. Before the beast could take advantage of her weakened state, it felt a sharp pain in its left leg. It turned its head to see Naruto stabbing its leg with his sword. He smirked, pleased to have its attention, but the bear swiped its claws at him with incredible speed. Sheet! I can't dodge! Naruto thought frantically as he raised his sword to block, using his blood manipulation abilities to enhance his strength, adrenaline, and blood flow. He barely managed to stay on his feet when the beast's claw struck his blade, creating a small crater beneath him. Seizing the moment, Delta leaped onto the mutated bear and sunk her claws into its left eye. She pressed on, dragging her claws down its torso, tearing through its flesh. The bear roared in pain and rage at the loss of its eye and the injury to its torso, its body enveloped in a dense purple aura. It stood on its digitigrade legs, and with a booming roar, its aura exploded, sending Naruto and Delta flying back. Naruto landed on his feet just as he noticed the symbol on the bear's chest glowing brightly. What's he doing? I don't know, but I don't like it. Get ready to dodge, Q warned urgently, prepared to assist Naruto with her chakra if necessary. The symbol glowed brighter as the bear opened its mouth in Naruto's direction. Sheet! A massive torrent of purple flames shot from its mouth, heading straight for him. Naruto barely had time to react. He increased his blood flow to enhance his body and jumped high into the air, letting the inferno pass beneath him. A loud explosion followed, kicking up dust and debris, knocking Naruto away and hitting him with rubble. Just as he was about to hit the ground, Delta appeared and caught him, much to his relief. Thanks, Delta. Hee, no problem. Delta is always eager to help, Zukumo. She beamed, still getting his name wrong. Naruto's eye twitched in annoyance, but he refocused on the beast, which was now giving them both hungry looks. Delta, we need a plan. We can't just brute force our way through this. Plan? Can't Delta just go for its eyes again? The werewolf suggested eagerly. She might be onto something, Naruto-kun. If you could blind it completely, then maybe we can pull off something more devastating during that time, Q advised within Naruto's mind. Yeah, hopefully we won't die in the process. This thing is fast, so we have to be even faster, Naruto thought back before turning to Delta. You know what, Delta, that's a great idea. I'll try to make an opening for you, and you go for its other eye. Make sure you approach from its left side, it won't be able to see through that eye again. Delta grinned widely and nodded in agreement, getting into a crouching position. Naruto created another blade of blood in his left hand and rushed the bear with a burst of speed. The beast charged at him in a blind rage, its mouth blazing with fire. Just as Naruto reached the raging beast, he slid under its body at the last moment and drove one of his blades into its abdomen. Pain shot through the bear's body as it stood quickly, lifting Naruto off the ground and causing him to lose his grip on his weapon. As Naruto soared through the air, the spikes on the beast's back glowed brightly. 5 spikes extended from its body and shot toward the white-haired vampire. Naruto felt a surge of panic as the spikes approached, but then he noticed they seemed to be moving in slow motion. Focusing intently, he channeled more of his energy into his blade and swung it downward. The blade extended, slicing through the spikes with ease. Seeing its attack fail, the beast attempted to unleash its breath attack again, but Naruto was already on its back. With determination, he shouted, "Take this, you overgrown chimera ripoff." He plunged his blade into the creature's back, causing it to roar in pain. The beast thrashed to shake him off, but Naruto's grip was too strong, allowing him to infect the bear with more of his energy. He then jumped off its back, smirking as he noticed his blade still embedded in the beast's abdomen. "Blood spikes," he called out. Instantly, his swords transformed into liquid and entered the bear's bloodstream. Moments later, sharp spikes made of solid blood erupted from the beast's back, covering its body in jagged crimson protrusions. "Delta! Now!" Naruto commanded, and the werewolf sprang into action. Utilizing her natural speed and agility, she raced up the bear's body, reaching the right side of its head despite her injuries. Naruto observed the scene closely, ready to instruct Q to channel her chakra into him, but something caught his attention. The bear's eyes seemed off. Wait, didn't Delta already take one of its eyes? Why does it look brand new? Realization struck him like a powerful technique, and he shouted in panic, "Sheet! Delta, get out of there now!" Delta was confused. Why was Naruto telling her to retreat? She thought she was about to complete her part of the plan. When she glanced back, she saw the beast staring directly at her. Caught off guard, she barely had time to react as the creature charged a breath attack and fired it point blank, sending her crashing through several trees. "Delta!" Naruto screamed, about to chase after her, but he was abruptly halted when the mutated bear appeared in front of him and delivered a devastating punch. The impact forced him to cough up blood and sent him flying through the trees. Barely clinging to consciousness, Naruto landed next to Delta, who lay unconscious with burn marks covering her body. "Naruto, are you okay?" Q asked, her concern for her container evident. "Why yeah, but barely. Thanks for healing me," he thought back, attempting to rise, only for his legs to falter slightly. "You're lucky your skeleton is infused with the same material as your arm. With your natural healing factor and my assistance, you would have been dead multiple times over," Q explained, doing her best to heal him, though the seal limited her power, slowing the process. Naruto managed to stand and walked toward the unconscious Delta. Thankfully, she was alive, albeit barely. "Damn it, I should have noticed earlier, and now we're paying for my mistake." Rumbling footsteps echoed as the mutated bear approached them. Before Naruto's eyes, the wounds he inflicted with his blood spikes began to steam, disappearing entirely as if they had never existed. "Damn it, this creature can heal itself. Nothing's ever easy." The beast lowered itself onto all fours and charged at them, ready to devour its next meal. Time seemed to slow for Naruto as he saw the bear's mouth open wide, flames trailing behind it. "Sheet! What can I do? That last attack nearly drained me, and I can barely move. This how I die? No, I can't die here. I won't die here. I refuse to die here." In that moment, a voice echoed in his mind, interrupting his thoughts. How interesting. Your will to live and gain strength has impressed me, boy. Very well, I shall lend you a small piece of my power. Try not to misuse it, or I will take it back without hesitation. Who was that? It wasn't Q, he knew that for certain. This voice was dark, masculine, and primal. He didn't have time to ponder, as a rush of unfamiliar energy coursed through his body. Naruto's right arm began to glow ominously, surrounded by a mist as dark as night. The beast halted, feeling a dominating pressure wash over it. Naruto unleashed a booming roar that reverberated through the forest as his aura exploded around him. Trees withered into dust, the grass turned a sickly gray, and the black mist enveloped the area in darkness. Soon, the mist receded, revealing Naruto. At first glance, he appeared unchanged, but upon closer inspection his right arm was entirely different. It was larger and more demonic, adorned with red claws and a glowing crimson eye on the back of his hand, covered in a thick black miasma and red veins. His left eye had transformed from cerulean blue to crimson red, both eyes now featuring slit pupils and black sclera. A red aura enveloped his entire body, radiating malice and pure bloodlust. Naruto's eyes glowed ominously as he let out a powerful roar that shook the ground, causing trees to sway. A dark aura enveloped the clearing, instilling a sense of fear in the bear before him. In an instant, Naruto vanished and reappeared right in front of the beast, moving his arm into the bear's left eye. The bear let out a pained roar as Naruto withdrew his arm, blood trickling down. A strange collection of red orbs began to emerge from the bear's body and into Naruto's arms, rapidly healing his wounds. The blood on his arm absorbed into him, enhancing his power as his arm glowed with energy. With a fierce snarl, Naruto unleashed a barrage of punches to the bear's face, each strike eliciting a roar of pain from the creature as it struggled to shake him off. Then he leaped onto the bear's head, gripping one of its horns and pulling with all his might. An audible crack echoed through the air as he tore the horn from the bear's head and tossed it aside. The bear roared again, but Naruto was already in motion, launching himself high into the air. His fingertips glowed with dark energy as he swung his claw-like hands downward, sending a wave of darkness crashing into the beast. The impact sent the bear sprawling to the ground, and more red orbs flowed into Naruto's arms. As the bear struggled to rise, its chest glowed orange, and it unleashed a torrent of fire. Naruto, however, reared back and roared with all his might, dispersing the flames and negating the attack. With determination, he slammed his fist into the bear's stomach, causing it to cough up blood. Naruto pressed on, delivering punch after punch, drawing more orbs into himself and healing his remaining wounds. With one final, devastating blow, he punched a gaping hole through the bear's chest, blood splattering across him. Yet, the mutated bear was still not defeated. It attempted to swipe at Naruto with its claws. Reacting quickly, Naruto jumped away, his aura intensifying as he planted his hand on the ground. The bear struggled to stand, its wounds healing but not as quickly as before. Fueled by primal rage, Naruto swiped his clawed hand upward, summoning a large demonic head made of darkness with glowing crimson eyes and jagged teeth. The construct charged toward the bear at blinding speed. Dead Spike. Naruto's voice boomed as the dark beast's head collided with the mutated bear, causing it to roar in agony. More red orbs flowed from the bear into Naruto's arms. When the smoke cleared, the bear lay battered and bloodied, one arm missing and its chest wound no longer regenerating. It was clear that the creature was on its last legs, literally, as one leg was also missing. Delta had awakened to witness the intense battle. She felt the dark energy radiating from Naruto but surprisingly felt safe, reminiscent of times spent with her mother while hunting. She struggled to remember Naruto's name, recalling it started with an N. After a moment, she finally remembered Naruto. As Naruto's aura surged, he charged at the downed beast on all fours, jamming his arm into its right eye and channeling darkness while the bear roared in pain. "Let darkness consume you," he shouted as tendrils attacked the bear, draining its energy. The creature thrashed violently before going limp. After a few moments, Naruto pulled his arm out, collapsing onto his back in exhaustion as his dark aura faded, returning his arm and eyes to normal. Panting heavily, Naruto tried to comprehend what had just occurred. He recalled a voice in his mind, the dark energy, and then nothing. Confusion washed over him as he looked around and spotted the corpse of the mutated bear. Wait, did I do that? Naruto. He turned to see Delta approaching, limping and clutching her side. "Delta, are you all right?" he asked, to which she nodded. "Good. That's good. What about you? Are you okay, Naruto?" Delta inquired. "Yeah, I should be. Wait a minute. Did you just call me by my name?" Naruto asked, surprised. Delta nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah. Delta thinks Naruto is strong. Your strange scent is gone too, so Delta thinks you smell nice." "I doubt I do, considering I'm covered in blood," Naruto replied, trying to create some space between them, but Delta remained close, sniffing him curiously. "Could you stop that?" Delta clung to him tightly. "No. Delta doesn't want to. You're her friend now, and we're going to hunt more prey in the future." Okay. I get it. Just let me go, will you? I can barely breathe." Naruto groaned as she finally released him. Delta then glanced at the dead bear, realization lighting up her face as she began to jump for joy, momentarily forgetting her injury. "We did it. We killed our prey. Can we eat it? Can we? Can we?" "Hold on there, Delta. We still need to take this thing back to the campsite. Besides, it's almost sundown, so let's get back before the others start to worry," Naruto said, walking over to the bear's lifeless body and sealing it in the storage tattoo Q had given him the other day. Just as Naruto turned around, Delta suddenly jumped on top of him, sitting on his shoulders. What the? Delta, get off of me, he exclaimed. No, Sarah doesn't want to. I want to stay with boss more, she replied. I said, wait, what? What did you just call yourself? Naruto asked, confused. Sarah. Delta's real name is Sarah, she said, tilting her head cutely. Ugh, first it was Delta, now it's Sarah. What, do you want me to call you Sarah now? Naruto asked, and the werewolf nodded rapidly. Fine, but can you please get off of me, Sarah? I'm a bit exhausted for today. No. Sarah doesn't want to. Boss's shoulders are comfortable, she protested, still perched on Naruto's shoulders. Sigh, you know what, just forget it. Let's just get out of here, Naruto grumbled, feeling annoyed as Sarah's tail wagged furiously in excitement. I can already tell this girl is going to be a handful in the future. The pair made their way out of the clearing, shouting and excited yells coming from them, unaware of a shadowy figure watching from a distance. Upon closer inspection, the figure could be identified as a bulky green-skinned orc. So that's the power that killed Black Sama's Behemoth? And it's coming from a boy of all things. I must report this to Black Sama immediately, the orc whispered to himself. Just as he was about to jump away to inform his master, he found himself unable to move. No matter how hard he tried, his body wouldn't obey his commands, and frustration washed over him. I'm afraid I cannot let that happen, foul beast, a voice said from above him. Rachel Alucard slowly descended into his view, aided by her umbrella. Rachel Alucard. What are you doing here? The orc growled, a hint of fear creeping into his voice, which Rachel noticed instantly, smirking at him. As always, you filthy mongrels possess such low intelligence like the humans outside this forest. Such a shame. But, since your microscopic brain can't seem to comprehend a simple answer as to why I'm here, I shall grace you with one. I'm here to ensure that you lowly creatures do not report to your master and his allies about our little fox, Rachel informed the orc with a mocking tone, causing him to growl in rage. You little, when my comrades find me, they'll take care of you, the orc threatened, but Rachel snapped her fingers, and lightning shot from the sky, striking the orc. I am well aware of the mindless actions your kind is known for, but I assure you that you've already lost. In case your insufficient brain hasn't realized it, all of your companions are nothing but ashes in the wind as we speak, Rachel said as she revealed what looked like severed green ears. The orc recognized the ears and felt a surge of rage as he struggled to move. I'll kill you, he shouted. Very unlikely. Farewell, mongrel. May the rest of your kind follow you where you belong, Rachel said indifferently, snapping her fingers once more. The orc felt pain shoot through his body as spikes made from his own blood erupted from him, covering him entirely. The final spike pierced his brain, and blood splattered everywhere as Rachel examined her handiwork before conjuring a small flame in her hands to burn the corpse to ash. Good riddance. Looking back to where Naruto had left the clearing with Sarah, Rachel contemplated. So that the beast has decided to play a more active role for him. I do hope that power will not consume you like it did so many others. For now, keep entertaining me, Naruto Uzumaki. Her eyes glowed bright red in anticipation as a swirl of bats surrounded her, and she disappeared from sight, leaving only the ashes of the orc spy behind. Minutes later, Naruto walked into the campsite with Sarah on his shoulders, grinning happily while he wore an annoyed expression. He looked around and noticed Nyuta talking with Jubi next to the fire as he approached them. Nayuta's ears twitched as she spotted the pair, relief flooding her face as she walked over. You're back. Thank goodness, I was beginning to think something happened to you guys. Hee, we're fine, Nayuta. Boss and Sarah killed a huge beast earlier. It will definitely beat your prey. Sarah exclaimed, catching Nayuta and Jubi's attention instantly with the use of the Ravenette's true name. Sigh. Sarah, can you get off of me now? My shoulders are starting to hurt, Naruto said flatly, making Sarah pout childishly. No. Sarah doesn't want to. Boss's shoulders are comfortable, she insisted, causing Naruto's eye to twitch in annoyance. Sarah, Get off of him. Now, Naruto said, her tone icy enough to freeze the entire forest. Naruto glanced over at the ice wolf, noticing her cold blue eyes and the ice-forming claws on her hands, with large ice crystals protruding from the ground behind her. Sarah glared defiantly at Naruto, clinging to Naruto. No. Sarah won't move. Both werewolves glared at each other with contempt, and Naruto felt his annoyance growing. He looked over to where Jubi was, only to see the cat happily munching on a stick of cooked meat. Sensei, a little help here? Oh, you'll be fine, kid. The worst they could do is fight with Sarah on your shoulders, Jubi said with a grin while returning to his meal. Naruto raged inwardly, in stupid cat. Wasn't my sensei supposed to help me in situations like these? After a long bout of bickering, Naruto finally managed to convince Sarah to get off of Naruto, who felt a wave of relief. Jubi then spoke up, excitement evident in his voice. So, you two took quite a while to get back here? I'm assuming the beast you hunted was pretty tough. Yeah, it was. It nearly killed us both, but we somehow managed to kill it and bring it here, Naruto replied, exhaustion creeping into his tone as he sat down on a log. Really? Where is it? I don't see it with you too, Naruto asked, Jubi nodding in agreement. Boss put the beast inside that tattoo on his arm. When we killed it, the thing went poof and disappeared. Sarah exclaimed excitedly. Really now? Can you show us the creature, Naruto? Jubi inquired. Naruto nodded and channeled his chakra into the seal on his arm, causing a huge puff of smoke to appear behind him. When the smoke cleared, both Jubi and Naruto's eyes widened at the sight of a large, demonic-looking bear lying motionlessly on the ground. Wow, that's a really big bear. You guys really took it out on your own? Naruto asked, a hint of jealousy in her voice. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly before responding, yeah, this thing was really tough to kill. But we managed to do it in the end, so we should be fine now. Lucky. I only managed to catch a large snake. Your catch beats mine by a long shot, Naruto lamented, but she stopped when Naruto started patting her head, causing her tail to wag slightly. Don't worry too much about it, Naruto. I'm sure you'll find a bigger beast in the future, Naruto reassured her, and the ice wolf closed her eyes in content. Her moment of happiness was interrupted when Sarah yanked on Naruto's arm, pulling him away from Naruto. Boss, where are my head pats? I want head pats too. Just as Naruto was about to respond, Naruto grabbed his other arm, pulling Sarah back to her. Sarah, stop bothering Naruto. He's tired, and your antics aren't helping him relax. No. Sarah wants head pats too. It's not fair that you get head pats and I don't. Sarah retorted, glaring at Naruto, who growled back at the black-haired werewolf. Will you two knock it off? My arms are starting to hurt. Naruto shouted in frustration, but his words fell on deaf ears. Meanwhile, Jubi smirked knowingly at the vampire's plight before turning his attention back to the corpse Naruto and Sarah had brought back. His expression shifted to that of a seasoned warrior as he examined the beast closely. This thing is obviously not normal. It looks like it's gone through a multitude of experiments. Not to mention I can smell faint traces of demon blood. There are only two people I can think of who could pull this off, and neither of them are good, Jubi thought to himself. He had a strong suspicion about who created this abomination and knew he needed to inform Veronica immediately, otherwise, things could become more problematic in the future. Turning back to his students, Jubi couldn't help but smirk as he noticed Naruto had had enough of the werewolves fighting over him. He released a bit of his aura, making the pair comply with his demands as they sat down in a kneeling position, heads bowed. Glad to see the brat taking charge of his mates. Should I tell him? No, I'll let him figure it out on his own. Besides, it'll be funny when he realizes that he's already married, Jubi thought with a mischievous grin. His thoughts were interrupted when Naruto suddenly began to tip over, eventually falling unconscious. Everyone rushed to his side as Naruto tried to wake him, but to no avail. Jubi examined Naruto more closely, and his eyes widened in realization. Cursing himself inwardly, he spoke up. Sarah, get him to his room and keep him there until I get back. But do you know what's happening to him, Master Jubi? The ice wolf asked, worry etched on her face. The werewolf nodded. Yes, I do. The kid is a vampire, a race that feeds off blood. When was the last time you saw him drink any blood since he's been here? He needs to feed off someone, and he's been in the sun for too long. Thankfully, sunlight isn't as bad as the tales say it is for vampires. Otherwise, Naruto would have died ages ago. Naruto and Sarah's eyes widened in realization. The former picked up the whiskered Jinchuriki and carried him on her back. What about you, Master BGMI? What are you going to do? The werewolf leader turned and began to walk away as he responded, I'm going to Cinderspire to inform Veronica about this. I shouldn't take too long, so just look after him with Roxanne until then. With that, BGMI jumped off, leaving the two werewolves alone with an unconscious Jinchuriki. Naruto and Sarah exchanged glances before making their way up the tree to the werewolf tribe. In Naruto's Mindscape, he woke up with a tired groan, surveying the dark, bloody, and depressing scenery that was his mind. Ugh, I'm going to have to change this place at some point. It'll be a nice change of pace for Q. He stood up, intending to find his tenant, when he heard faint sounds of arguing in the distance. As he approached, the voices grew louder and clearer. The first voice was Q's, but the second voice sounded familiar, as if he had heard it recently. Was someone else in his mind besides Q? When he reached the large cage, he saw Q glaring into it with venom, shouting angrily, "You beast! I thought I told you that if you do anything to endanger my host, I would kill you. And like I keep telling you, Vixen, I helped him with his plight with the beast outside. Surely that gives me some credit?" A deep, primal voice growled in annoyance, prompting Q to snarl. "You nearly took control of his body in the process. We're fortunate I was sending my chakra into his system during that time, otherwise his body would have broken down and collapsed, taking us with him." Q exclaimed angrily. It worked in the end, didn't it? Besides, I only lent the boy a small amount of my powers through his arm. He'll have to prove to me that he can grow without any more of my assistance, the deep voice replied, sounding bored and tired of the conversation. We didn't need your help. I could have helped him just fine without you. Q shouted, her anger rising. That's a lie, and you know it. What's done is done, and I could care less about your opinion on the matter, the dark voice responded indifferently. Q's rage flared as her red aura intensified. The feeling is mutual, Yuden and beast. Did I come at a bad time? Naruto finally spoke up, causing Q to turn her head sharply toward him. He wondered if the beautiful Vixen had gotten whiplash from the sudden movement. Naruto-kun, you're here? Are you feeling okay? Q asked, her tone shifting to that of a concerned mother. I'm fine, Q. Although I would like to know what's going on. Actually, a better question is who were you arguing with in here? Naruto inquired, confusion evident in his voice, prompting an amused chuckle from within the cage. Well, Vixen, are you going to introduce me to our vessel, or am I going to have to take matters into my own hands again? The voice said, eliciting a growl from Q. Naruto decided to step closer to the cage to see if he could catch a glimpse of his other tenant. Soon, glowing crimson eyes opened, but it wasn't just one set. Multiple sets of crimson eyes appeared in the darkness, revealing a grin filled with rows of sharp teeth. As the darkness cleared, Naruto's eyes widened in a mix of shock, disbelief, and fear. The creature before him reached the roof of the Mindscape, its body covered in a thick coat of black miasma adorned with glowing red veins. The most striking feature of the abomination was its 8 serpentine heads, all looking down at him as if he were nothing but an ant. Loud crashes echoed through the forest of death as multiple trees fell from their stumps. Explosions rang out as 3 figures continued their sparring session. Eventually, the trio clashed once more, a pair of identical blades and sharp claws meeting a large sword made of blood. The 3 figures vanished and reappeared on opposite sides, revealing the first and second figures to be BGMI and Luca. BGMI appeared unchanged physically, but he had aged significantly over the past 12 years. Across from him stood a much older Naruto, his body glistening with sweat. His hair had grown even spikier over the years, and his physique had become muscular, making most his age envious. He wore black hakama pants and was barefoot, revealing a well-defined six-pack. The white-haired vampire grinned as he wiped sweat from his forehead and created another blade of blood in his left hand. "What's wrong, old man? I can do this all day. You aren't getting tired, are you?" "Hee, I don't know about him, but I've got room for some more fun in me," Luca said playfully, grinning at the shirtless Naruto, who returned the smile with excitement. "Ha, cheeky brat. You know not everyone has as much stamina as you, Naruto," Jubi remarked with a smirk. "Hey, perks of being an Uzumaki, I guess. Not many people can keep up with me thanks to you guys," Naruto replied, dismissing his swords and getting into a stance as blood swirled around him. "With that being the case, let's kick things up a notch." The vampire grinned in excitement as his left eye shifted from cerulean blue to blood red, matching his right eye. The blood surrounding Naruto increased tenfold. Blood edge, full drive. Naruto's aura exploded as he blitzed toward Luca at blinding speeds, sending a powerful punch her way. Luca covered her limbs with hardened ice and raised her arms just as the vampire's punch connected with her forearm. His eyes widened when the ice shattered, and Naruto seized the opportunity to kick Luca in the side, sending her crashing through several trees. Jubi took advantage of Naruto's exposed back and dashed toward him to slash, but Naruto was ready. He quickly created a barrier made of his mana while increasing blood flow in his right arm as the werkat sought an opening. When the vampire saw a chance, he delivered a rising uppercut to Jubi's chin, catching him off guard and sending him flying upwards. Inferno Crusader! Jubi managed to recover in time, landing on a nearby tree just as Luca reappeared, sending a wave of ice crystals toward the vampire. Naruto smirked, channeling more blood into his weapon before swinging his sword in a wide arc, elongating it to cut all the ice crystals in half. Fortunately for Luca, she jumped just as the extended sword passed beneath her. As she landed near Naruto, she unleashed a flurry of claw swipes in an attempt to injure him, managing to strike his left arm. Naruto grunted in slight pain just as Jubi descended rapidly, poised to strike his back with twin kodachis. Just as Luca prepared for another claw swipe, Naruto shifted his stance to the side, causing the ice wolf to overextend her. The vampire spun on his feet, delivering a backward hook kick to the back of Luca's head, following it up with a rising kick that sent her tumbling to the ground. Naruto reacted to Jubi's aerial strike by channeling a large amount of blood into his right arm, swiping upward. Instantly, a large beast head made of blood shot from the ground toward the descending werkat, who was caught off guard as he attempted to block the attack. As the attack struck Jubi, he was sent flying back upwards, relatively unharmed thanks to his weapons absorbing most of the impact. However, when the werkat looked up, he saw a fist aimed towards his face. The fist connected with Jubi's stomach, sending him further up and making him cough before Naruto appeared above the werkat and brought his leg down in an axe kick. Jubi grinned, using his flexibility to dodge Naruto's kick midair while grabbing the vampire's leg with one of his tails and yanking him down towards the ground. Caught off guard by this action, Naruto slammed into the floor just as ice covered his arms and legs, making him immobile. Soon, Naruto felt a weight on top of him and looked up to see Luca with her hands covered in ice, her appendage near his throat. She declared that they had won this time and wished him better luck next time. At that, Naruto relaxed his body as his left eye returned to its normal blue. He admitted that he thought he had them for sure this time but realized he had gotten too greedy in the end. Jubi landed next to the pair just as Luca got off of Naruto and commented that Naruto had nearly taken him out of the fight. Naruto got up from his spot on the ground and started stretching his back, asking how many wins that made. Luca informed him it was 21-20 in their favor and complimented him on how well he had done against them together. Naruto, with a grin of satisfaction, expressed that after everything he had been through over the past few years, he would like to think he had done well. He then inquired if they were going to learn something new that day. Luca exchanged a look with Jubi before he spoke up, saying that Veronica wanted them all at Cinderspire later that day and advised Naruto not to be late. Curious, Naruto asked why she wanted to meet them. Jubi shrugged, admitting he had no idea but that they should head over there. Luca grinned seductively, kissed Naruto's cheek, and jumped off, leaving him slightly blushing and crossing his arms. He muttered about Luca's behavior, noting that even though she knew he was with her sister, she still pursued him. BGMI reassured Naruto not to be down, explaining that Naruto might be a bit possessive, but that was typical for beastkin when it came to their mates. He then mentioned he was going back to the tribe before heading to Cinder Spire and said he would see Naruto there. Alone, Naruto sighed as a small red gate appeared at his side. He reached through it, pulled out a long-sleeved black shirt with white accents, and put it on while walking toward his home of the past few years. He reflected on how hard it was to believe it had already been 12 years since that day and wondered how the others were doing, likely training again with the Seijai and Shiranui. Suddenly, a familiar voice caught his attention. A blonde, twin-tailed vampire approached, commenting on his performance and mockingly lamenting his defeat. Naruto, annoyed by her condescension, greeted her and pointed out her usual habit of either entertaining herself at his expense or providing him with information. Rachel smirked, retorting that she had no interest in watching him fail. Naruto shot back that she was either there for entertainment or to share news, and since she claimed it wasn't for entertainment, he assumed it was the latter. Rachel playfully acknowledged his deduction and then informed him that the responsibility of bringing Naruto, Sarah, and Sylvia to Cinder Spire was his. She explained that Roxanne would have been more suitable for the task, but Veronica had assigned her elsewhere. With that, she disappeared in a flurry of bats, leaving Naruto alone once more. Frustrated, Naruto grumbled about his lack of choice in the matter. Normally, Roxanne would handle such tasks without question, but since she was in Cinder Spire, he would have to do it himself. Following Rachel's example, he surrounded himself with bats and disappeared from sight. Naruto reappeared right in front of the gates leading into the Werkat tribe. One of the gate guards noticed him immediately and signaled his partner to open the gates. As the gates opened wide, he was greeted by smiles and greetings from the local Werkats, and even some werewolves among the crowd, all of whom he returned with a smile. Eventually, he reached his house and went to the backyard, only to hear loud crashes and shouting. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose in annoyance before entering the backyard to witness a chaotic scene. Large ice crystals and splotches of fire were scattered everywhere, making the back of his house look like a war zone. He then heard more shouting, clearer this time. One voice challenged another, demanding to know where the bravado had gone, while the other retorted that they were the one winning the fight. "Don't try and lie to yourself because I'm thrashing you around like a chew toy." Naruto observed two figures standing on opposite sides, both female. One had her limbs covered in ice, while the other was engulfed in flames. Upon closer inspection, he realized both were beastkin, a werewolf and a Werkat. How am I lying to myself when you have more wounds than me? If anything, I'm clearly winning. Let's just finish this already, the werewolf shouted, crouching low and preparing to lunge at her rival. Bring it. I'll take you down right here and now, the Werkat retorted, her flames intensifying. The two glared at each other before charging forward at blinding speeds. Just as they were about to clash, Naruto suddenly appeared between them, catching both of their fists and surprising the two women as their powers dissipated. With a playful tone, he addressed them, "You know, it would be nice if you two could avoid destroying what's left of my backyard." Both females looked apologetic, surveying the destruction they had caused. The werewolf spoke up, her voice tinged with regret. "Sorry, Naruto. We got too caught up in our fight. We wanted to see you, but then we started arguing again. It's fine. Just make sure you don't do this again, Naruto said, patting the ice wolf on the head. Naruto nodded sheepishly, her tail wagging in contentment. Naruto had blossomed into a beautiful young woman, her hair now long and reaching her mid-back, with twin tails held by snowflake scrunchies. Her figure rivaled her older sister's, boasting large BRSs, wide hips, and a toned stomach. She wore a white halter top with blue accents and a long blue fur skirt, both adorned with a snowflake print. As for you, Naruto turned to the Werkat, giving her a hard look that made her step back nervously. How many times have I told you to stop burning my backyard? I can handle the ice, but this grass is hard to grow, Sylvia. Sylvia, also known as Kirin, chuckled nervously, scratching the back of her head. Sorry, Naruto. I guess I got a little carried away with my fire. Sylvia had also matured into a stunning young woman, her figure matching Naruto's. Unlike her younger self, her hair was now tied into two messy twin tails held by red ribbons. Her attire remained similar, sporting a red tube top that hugged her figure and a short white fur skirt over a black thong. However, she now bore red tribal tattoos across her body. Just try not to do it again, alright? Naruto said, rubbing the werecat's ears, causing her tail to stand straight for a moment before a blissful expression spread across her face. He then scratched under Sylvia's chin, making her purr in delight. Naruto eventually stopped, prompting Sylvia to pout. Anyways, I came here looking for you too because we've been summoned to Cinder Spire. Really? They normally don't call on us for no reason, Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow as she made the ice crystals around her disappear. I'm not entirely sure. All I know is that Veronica wants us all at Cinder Spire today. It must be important if she wants us there too, Naruto replied with a shrug. Whatever the case, it's better than fighting non-stop with this mud over here, Sylvia said, casting a mocking grin at Naruto, who growled in response. Yeah, you two can go to Cinder Spire without me if you want. I'm going to find Sarah, Naruto said, starting to walk away. However, Naruto suddenly latched onto his right arm, smothering it between her chest and making him blush slightly. In that case, I'll come with you. I know where Sarah is, so we can go together, Naruto said cheerfully, preparing to drag Naruto off. But Sylvia seized the opportunity to latch onto his left arm in a similar manner. You know, I think I'll come too. There's always room for one more, isn't there? Sylvia said with a sweet smile directed at Naruto, who glared at her rival, electric sparks flying between the two beastkin. Why not? The more, the merrier, I guess. Come on, let's find Sarah and get this done, Naruto said, choosing to ignore the tension as they left his home in search of Sarah. Eventually, they arrived at the mess hall, and all three looked at the sight before them, sweat droplets forming on their brows. At a large table piled high with bowls sat two individuals. One was an old male werecat, looking quite inflated from the amount of food he had consumed. The other was the werewolf they had been searching for, still devouring food as if possessed. The werewolf had also grown over the years. Her once short black hair now cascaded down to her lower back, though it remained messy. She wore a black skin-tight bodysuit with gold trimmings that accentuated her figure, with sleeves cut off at the elbows, exposing her fur-covered hands. Finally finishing her current bowl, she placed it down with a content sigh. Ah, now that hit the spot. Better luck next time, old-timer. The old werecat attempted to respond but promptly passed out from overeating. The surrounding crowd erupted in applause as the werewolf stood up from her seat. Spotting Naruto, her face lit up with joy as she blurred forward. Naruto didn't get to finish because the Ravenet had slammed into him at blinding speeds, separating him from both Naruto and Sylvia as he hit the floor. Boss, Sarah missed you. Can we go hunting again like last time? Sarah said with excitement, her tail wagging furiously. Ugh, Sarah, I was only gone for half of the day, Naruto replied, trying to pry the girl off, but to no avail. That's too long for Sarah. Let's go hunting like last time, the eccentric werewolf insisted, trying to get her mate to agree. However, both Naruto and Sylvia forced Sarah off of Naruto, much to his gratitude. Sarah, that's enough. We came here looking for you, and we have to go to Cinder Spire. So can you stop being so difficult? Sylvia complained, prompting Sarah to pout childishly. But boss just got here. Can't we stay here a bit longer? Sarah whined. No buts, Sarah. Now come on, let's go before we get scolded for being late, Naruto said, wrapping his arms around both Naruto and Sylvia, making them blush. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah jumped onto the vampire's shoulders just as a red magic circle with the insignia of an 8-headed beast appeared beneath them, and they disappeared from sight. Cinder Spire Castle. The group appeared in front of a large pair of double doors, and Sarah jumped off of Naruto. The lone vampire of the group pushed the doors open to reveal a dark room similar to the Hokage's office, but with a more noble feel. Naruto smiled softly when he saw the one who had shaped him into who he was today sitting at her desk reading, while multiple copies of her walked around doing paperwork. You've arrived. Perfect timing, I was just finishing up, Veronica said, looking up just as she completed a document. Well, when you call us to your office, it's always important, right? It's not like you to go out of your way and waste other people's time, her vassal commented while sitting down on a nearby couch, with the beastkin following him. Fufufu, you know me so well, no. Alas, we need to wait for the others to arrive so we can discuss business, the vampire queen said with a sigh. Just then, a familiar red and black magic circle appeared on the ground. Soon, four figures emerged from the light, revealing a Seijai, Shaltir, and two other women. The first woman had a similar height to Shaltir, with pale skin, long blonde hair framing her face, red eyes with slit pupils like other vampires, and pointed ears. She wore a white coat over a button-up white shirt with frills, a black short skirt, black garter belt stockings, black steel-toe boots, and a black ribbon in her hair. The second female was someone he knew all too well, even from childhood. She had pale skin like the other vampires, long untamed black hair with split bangs, red eyes with an additional ring, pointy ears, and an hourglass figure. Unlike the others, she wore a fishnet shirt under a black kimono with red trim and a purple sash, a black skirt, garter belt stockings, shinobi sandals, and black arm wrappings. Naruto smiled softly as he was about to greet the four women that appeared, but someone else beat him to it. Lord Naruto, it's such a pleasure to see you again after so long. Shaltir exclaimed as she dropped her umbrella and dashed toward him to give him an embrace. The embrace caused her generous figure to press against his chest, making him blush slightly. It's good to see you too, Shaltir. But I'm pretty sure I haven't been gone for that long, have I? Naruto questioned, confused. Of course. You left us so suddenly that it brought the rest of my subjects to tears. You can't just leave abruptly when things were starting to get good, Shaltir said with a pout, making everyone's sweat drop. Sorry about that. I'll be sure to pay you back at some point, Naruto said nervously, but the petite vampire was quite persistent and was having none of it. Actually, if you don't mind, I would like to receive my compensation right now, Shaltir said playfully, leaning closer to Naruto. But before she could get too close, the kimono-wearing vampire suddenly pulled Shaltir back by her hair, making her cry out in slight surprise. Shaltir, please restrain yourself in front of the others. Besides, Naruto just got here, and I doubt he's in the mood for your antics, the woman said, before walking toward Naruto and giving him a warm embrace. Speaking of which, it's good to see you again. Naruto chuckled softly and returned the hug. You too, Kurenai. I hope Asejai wasn't too hard on you today. Kurenai smiled further when Naruto kissed her cheek, making her blush slightly and causing Nyuta, Sylvia, and Sarah to pout in jealousy. Meanwhile, Shaltir pouted childishly while fixing her hair, as Asejai smiled while hugging Naruto. It's good to see you again, Naruto. I assume things are well on your part? Asejai asked. Yeah, so far so good. By the way, thanks for training the others when I turned them, Naruto said gratefully. I should be the one thanking you. I don't think I've had such promising vampires under my tutelage before, Asejai replied, with Kurenai feeling a bit embarrassed by the praise. Naruto then felt a tug on his sleeve and saw the blonde looking at him with a pout. Hello, Naruto. Good to see you too. Let me guess, you're feeling low on mana? Naruto asked, with the blonde nodding as she looked at his shoulder. Naruto chuckled softly as he pulled on his collar, exposing his neck to her. Go ahead, have your fill. What? How come she gets to drink his blood and I don't? Shaltir shouted in outrage. Because you has been working overtime to eliminate the spies we've had in our ranks, so I believe it is well deserved, Veronica spoke up, causing Shaltir to pout childishly. You, unfazed by Shaltir's indignant shouts, elongated her fangs and bit into Naruto's neck, drinking his blood. She ummed in delight as she felt the warmth flow down her throat, instantly replenishing her mana. After a while, you pulled back from Naruto's neck, liking her lips to clean off any blood that had escaped. Delicious. Your blood always tastes so good, Naruto. Glad you enjoyed your fill, Naruto replied with a smile. Just make sure to leave some for the others next time, Naruto said with a smirk, which you returned in kind. The other vampires in the room felt a shiver run down their spines as they caught the heavenly aroma of Naruto's blood. For them, it was intoxicating. A normal human's blood paled in comparison to his, especially since he was an Uzumaki, known for their strong life forces and high amounts of chakra. Naruto's blood was filled with so much energy that even Veronica, who usually had better control over her instincts, found herself craving it at times. Naruto couldn't take it anymore and latched onto Naruto's arm, glaring at the blonde vampire. "Back off, bloodsucker. He's my mate, not yours." "Your mate? Don't forget you have us to deal with, mutt," Sylvia said, narrowing her eyes as she pointed at herself and Sarah. Naruto growled angrily, ready to snap at her fellow beast kin, but Naruto started stroking her tail gently, causing her to yip in surprise. "Naruto, we talked about this. No fighting in front of Veronica. Control yourself." The ice wolf reluctantly nodded but still clung tightly to Naruto's arm. Veronica smirked knowingly at the sight before another magic circle appeared, this one a pink color with a heart-shaped symbol. There they are. In the same manner as the vampires had arrived, the magic circle faded, revealing Mizuki Shiranui, looking just as beautiful as the day they met. Behind her were Albedo and two more women who made Naruto shiver slightly, both of whom he recognized. The first woman had short, messy reddish-pink hair with an ahog on her head, golden eyes with slit pupils, a beauty mark under her left eye, light brown curved horns, red bat-like wings, a matching tail with a heart-shaped tip, and a curvaceous figure typical of most succubi. She wore a navy blue leotard with light blue trim that exposed her large BRSDS and navel, with straps connected to a black choker, gloves that reached her shoulders, light purple garter belt stockings, and thigh-high boots. The second woman had purple hair styled in a spiky fan ponytail, yellow eyes with slit pupils, and an hourglass figure. She wore a black trench coat over a black zip-up LTX bodysuit, which was open, revealing her large BRSTS and hugging her wide hips and thighs, along with thigh-high boots and fingerless black gloves. This woman also had the wings and tail of a succubus, but unlike most, purple scales covered her wings and tail, as well as her cheeks. Shiranui. Glad you could make it, Veronica said, pleased to see her best succubus. Glad to be here, Lady Veronica. I was nearly caught up in a situation with Ruji Kurwa, so this is much better, Shiranui sighed in annoyance before spotting Naruto at the center of the room. A happy smile graced her beautiful face, though it seemed a bit predatory. Hello Naruto. You've grown into such a handsome young man. Naruto blushed slightly at Shiranui's compliment before responding, Why yeah, you too, Shiranui. Suddenly, a pair of arms wrapped around his neck, and he felt large BRs pressing against his back. He turned to see the woman with purple hair grinning playfully behind him. Why hello there, Foxy. Did you miss your favorite snake? I know you did. Naruto chuckled, and they shared a brief kiss that made the woman's wings flutter slightly. You could say that. Glad to know Shiranui hasn't killed you yet, Anko. Anko Mitarashi smirked as she replied, Near felt like I did. Her training is worse than my old sensei's. The only difference is that her training is morally better. As Naruto was about to respond, he heard a squeal of excitement. He turned just in time to have a huge pair of BRs crash into his face. The pink-haired succubus hugged his head into her ample bosom. Oh Naruto, it's so good to see you all grown up. Now that you're full of energy, you can fulfill your promise to me. And what, pray tell, did Naruto promise you, Shamsiel? Veronica asked, looking at the now identified Shamsiel, who wore a playful smile and winked. Simple. He promised me that in the future, I could become his servant, Shamsiel purred, her tail curving into a heart shape. Everyone looked at her with baffled expressions, especially Naruto and Sylvia. Shamsiel, show some restraint around our mistress. Now is not the time for your antics. Albedo scolded her fellow succubus, who just grinned mockingly. Funny, I don't want to hear that from someone who argues with Shaltir daily, especially with our mistress present, Shamsiel said, causing both Shaltir and Albedo to blush in embarrassment and look away, much to everyone's amusement. Shamsiel? You think you could stop suffocating our friend with your chest? He's starting to turn blue, Anko said playfully. True to her words, Naruto was indeed struggling for air. The pink-haired succubus released him, and he gasped for breath. Are you okay, Naruto? Albedo asked with concern as he caught his breath. Yeah, I thought I saw my parents for a second there, Naruto replied, huffing before turning to Shamsiel with an annoyed look. Shamsiel, how many times have I told you to stop suffocating me? Hee. Oh come on Naruto, you can't tell me you didn't enjoy it. I could feel your excitement increase a bit from that, Shamsiel teased, making Naruto's eye twitch. Good, almost everyone is here. Now we're just waiting on my sister, then we can begin, Veronica said. Just then, a dark red magic circle appeared, revealing Rachel, Jubii, Luca, and another woman Naruto recognized immediately. The woman had fair skin, long brown hair tied in a low ponytail, brown eyes with slit pupils, and red fang-like markings on her cheeks, indicating she was from Konoha's Inuzuka clan. She wore a black tube top that hugged her large BRSTS under a low-cut leather jacket with fur trim around the collar, and black skin-tight shorts that accentuated her wide hips. Her most noticeable features were the light brown wolf ears on her head and the wolf tail protruding from her tailbone. Her arms and legs were also covered in light brown fur. Sorry for the wait, sister. We had to make a slight detour, Rachel said nonchalantly as she sat down on a nearby chair. Jubii nodded in Veronica's direction, and she nodded back in return. Luca made her way to Nayuta, who groaned when her sisters started pestering her, while Jubii leaned against a nearby wall. Meanwhile, the brown-haired woman walked towards Naruto, and they both hugged each other as she spoke. Sorry it took a bit to get here, Naruto-kun. I was in the middle of something when those three came to get me. If by something you mean something else, then I won't hold it against you, Naruto whispered in her ear, making the brunette blush furiously. Hana, I can smell the lingering scent coming off of you. Hana's face turned a darker shade of red as she playfully smacked Naruto's chest in embarrassment, while he chuckled softly. Over the years of being hidden in the forest of death, Veronica had waited for the remaining Ice Queens to return from their missions. When they returned to Konoha, the Vampire Queen approached each of them one by one and persuaded them to join her and Naruto in Cinderspire. At first, they were hesitant, not wanting to betray their village. However, when she revealed what the people of their home had done to Naruto, they, much like Yugao, decided to join the Vampire Queen to be with the whiskered Jinchuriki. Upon arriving at Cinderspire, Shiranui immediately took a liking to Anko and requested Veronica to allow her to train the snake mistress and convert her into a succubus, which she agreed to. Luca felt the same way about Hana, considering her affiliation with the Inuzuka clan, known for their partnership with dogs. Hana soon transformed into a werewolf and has been training with Luca ever since that day. Kurenai, on the other hand, decided to become Naruto's second vassal, mostly due to Yugao convincing her to do so, and she had not regretted her choice. Although it was a bit annoying when her hunger for blood got the best of her, and she had to drink Naruto's blood, she could manage it. As everyone quieted down, Veronica took the opportunity to speak up. Now that everyone is here, we can finally get this meeting underway. Lady Veronica, if I may ask, why did you call this meeting? Nayuta asked, confusion evident on her face, with everyone agreeing with the younger Ice Wolf. I have a few problems to address, one of which pertains to the Hokage, Veronica said seriously, before turning to Naruto as she spoke. One of my spies, as well as Yugao, has informed me that the Hokage, along with the elders of the village, knows that you're alive, Naruto. Everyone was taken aback by the revelation. The whiskered Jinchuriki mainly stayed hidden in the Workhat tribe, a place difficult to find if you didn't know where to look. Seeing their shocked expressions, Veronica continued. Apparently, one of the elders, Danzo Shimura if I'm not mistaken, dispatched his personal umbu separate from the Hokage's own and tasked them to search within the forest. Unfortunately, one of them managed to escape alive and informed that War Hawk, who in turn informed the Hokage. Damn it, I thought I sensed a few chakra signatures nearby when we were training. I was too careless and left things to chance, thinking they would die by the forest environment. Jubii said, cursing himself for his short-sightedness. It's fine, Jubii. It was also an oversight on my part. I should have placed more security barriers in the forest, but what's done is done. Yugao has informed me that as we speak, Hiruzen is coming to Cinderspire right now, said the vampire queen, narrowing her eyes in calm rage. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they tried to process the information, before Shiranui spoke up. Are you sure this is a good idea, my lady? For all we know, he could be plotting to take back Naruto and make him one of his loyal followers. Oh, make no mistake, Shiranui. That's exactly what he's planning, Rachel said, catching everyone's attention as she continued. Konoha has lost their Jinchuriki for the past 12 years now. Without Naruto, they are severely weakened. Not to mention they couldn't make him a loyal weapon to defend that insufferable village. Naruto scoffed while crossing his arms. Figures. Those old BSs did everything they could to make my life hell when I was young. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to pick up where they started. I should probably mention that they would also get Naruto to go to Whirlpool Country to claim all of the Uzumaki's vast fortune, Shamsiel said while floating off the ground, making everyone look at her with confusion. Shamsiel? How do you know about that? Kurenai asked, with everyone wondering the same. Shamsiel grinned before taking out a worn-out black book from between her beards and showing it to the group. Well, I did a little digging inside the Hokage Tower, and I found this book in a secret drawer. Apparently, this book contains all of the dark secrets Konoha was involved in, with past Hokages having their own entries. There are even some mentions of Naruto's parents in this book in the newer entries, but mostly his father and what they had planned for him. Shamsiel tossed the book towards Veronica, who caught it and used her magic to duplicate the book into several copies for everyone to take. After some time passed, everyone felt a large wave of killing intent coming from Naruto. He had his right hand clenched into a fist after reading the latest entry, which was written by the third Hokage. The page read as follows. Damn it. Those ignorant villagers just had to ruin everything. I just got word from Umbu Cat that Naruto has been killed. This puts a major hole in our plans. Without Naruto, we can't condition him properly to become a shinobi only loyal to the Hokage. We just lost our only Jinchuriki, and yet those idiotic civilians are celebrating like it's not a problem. All we can do is wait for the Kyuubi to reform and find a way to seal it again. If things go as planned, Danzo's little project with Orochimaru could prove useful in the future if we find the fox. If things get desperate, I might just have to approve of Danzo's idea of taking the Jinchuriki from Taki. Naruto was enveloped in a dark aura as he continued to read the contents of the book, a scowl plastered on his face. That no-good, lying, backstabbing old man. Veronica narrowed her eyes at Naruto, who nodded in response, barely holding back his rage. This is the person we worked under? He has been collaborating with Orochimaru even after his defection. Anko exclaimed, her fury evident. It felt like a betrayal to discover that the old man she thought she could trust was just as bad as the snake. There are even notes about him and the elders conspiring with other villages to eliminate the Uzumaki clan. Just how deep does this betrayal go? Jubi said quietly, his anger simmering as he flipped through the book and found multiple entries detailing how Hiruzen had ordered Danzo to mobilize his Umbu to secretly eliminate any Uzumaki while the island was under siege. This just proves that the Konoha that Hashirama and Tobirama Senju worked so hard to preserve has fallen from grace. Now, how are we going to deal with this situation? He knows that Naruto is here, and he will likely try anything to bring him back to that disgraceful village, Rachel said, glancing at Veronica, who was deep in thought. Can't we just storm the place and take Konoha by force? Sarah thinks we can do it, Sarah suggested. Confused, but Shelter shook her head. Unfortunately, we can't. If we do that, both sides would suffer significant losses, and we wouldn't have enough people to continue our goal of making the nations a home for monsters again, Shaltir explained, resting her chin in thought as Veronica nodded in agreement. She's right, little Sarah. I won't sacrifice my people if I can help it, which is why we need more allies outside of Cinderspire to assist us with this goal, Veronica added, but her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. The doors opened, and Valkenhayn entered with a serious expression. He bowed before everyone and spoke, Mistress Veronica, I apologize for the interruption, but the Hokage has arrived to see you. Shall I show him in? Everyone's eyes narrowed, but Veronica responded, yes, thank you, Valkenhayn. With a nod, Valkenhayn left, leaving the room in tense silence. Naruto's anger intensified, his aura matching his emotions. Just as he was about to explode, Albedo gently brushed her hands against his cheeks, calming him slightly. Naruto, please calm down. We know this information is hard to take in, but now is not the time to lash out. Please control yourself, Albedo said softly, her words soothing as Naruto took deep breaths to steady himself. Better? She asked. Yeah. For now anyway. Thanks, Albedo. I really needed that, Naruto replied, trying to sound calm, and Albedo nodded with a smile. However, internally she was preoccupied with other thoughts. Oh my, his aura is so much more potent compared to before. I wonder if that will translate to our nightly activities, Albedo mused, discreetly rubbing her thighs together, unaware that her fellow succubi were having similar thoughts. Naruto, will you be able to control yourself when the Hokage walks in? Jubi asked, and the vampire nodded slowly. I'll try. But if he says something uncalled for, then all bets are off, Naruto replied, sitting between Nyuta and Sylvia, who patted his shoulders reassuringly. That's all we can hope for. Speaking of which, Anko, Kurenai, Hana, you three should conceal your presence from the Hokage. We wouldn't want to expose your little secret, Rachel advised, and the Kunoichi nodded, hiding their chakra as best as they could. Veronica, not taking any chances, snapped her fingers and enveloped them in a thin barrier that concealed their presence completely. Eventually, Valkenhayn returned, bowing before the group, followed by 3 Umbu. A curvaceous woman with a snake mask, a male with a tiger mask, and a familiar cat-masked Umbu. The man they had been waiting for entered next, dressed in his signature white and red Hokage robes, complete with his hat. Veronica, I see you're doing quite well for yourself, Hiruzen Sarutobi said, attempting to ease the tension in the room. Save me the pleasantries, Hokage. My domain doesn't take kindly to wandering humans, so I would like to keep this brief, Veronica replied, her tone sharp. Hiruzen sighed, preparing to get to the point. Very well. I know that Naruto is alive. I also know that he has been in your care for the past 12 years. Yes, he is under my care, thanks to you and your villagers leaving him in my domain to die, Veronica shot back, her narrowed eyes making the old Hokage wince. Unfortunately, that was purely the actions of the villagers who were still grieving. Rest assured, every single one of them has been punished accordingly, Hiruzen explained, hoping to appease the vampire queen, only to receive a scowl. I am very much aware of the fate of the humans involved. They had it coming, Veronica said before turning to the cat-masked Umbu with a smile. Speaking of which, I commend you for your brutality. You would have been a wonderful addition to my army. The cat Umbu nodded in gratitude, but Veronica continued, however, this doesn't change the fact that Cinderspire is Naruto's home now. Your village threw away a rare gem, and I simply took advantage of the opportunity to turn him into the perfect warrior. As Hokage, I cannot simply let you keep him. Naruto is far too valuable for Konoha to let go, Hiruzen stated, his eyes narrowed, prompting scoffs from the vampires. Are you saying that because he's a Jinchuriki? Or because he's the son of your previous Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki? You interjected, catching Hiruzen off guard. How did you know that? That's supposed to be a secret only a select few should know, Hiruzen stammered, surprised by the monster's knowledge of the Jinchuriki. The vampire clenched his fists, feeling the weight of betrayal settle heavily in his chest. The old man he had once trusted had made his life a nightmare and had even denied him the names of his parents. We have our sources, Hokage. It wasn't hard to figure out. The kid was born on the night the Kyuubi attacked, and he looked like a mini version of the blonde man when he first arrived here. As for his mother, it was quite obvious, considering Kushina Uzumaki was the only one of her kind in the village at the time. Connecting the dots wasn't difficult, Jubi stated calmly from the side. I understand. However, this doesn't change the fact that Konoha needs him. If the other villages discover that Konoha has lost their Jinchuriki, it could provoke them to attack us, and by extension, you. Hiruzen replied sternly, causing the creatures in the room to narrow their eyes. Typical humans. Always wanting something from others and treating them like disposable trash. Naruto is fine where he is now, so go back to your village, Naruto growled, standing up and catching the Hokage's attention, as well as that of the tiger-masked Umbu beside him, who drew his tanto. I suggest you show some restraint, beast. You are in the presence of the one who allows your kind to stay hidden here, the Umbu warned, provoking growls from the other beastkin in the room. Better a beast than a traitorous human, Sylvia retorted, her body crackling with orange sparks, while Sarah and Luca snarled at the Umbu. Enough, all of you. We're getting off topic, so please control yourselves. That goes for your subordinates as well, Hiruzen, Veronica interjected, her red aura expanding throughout the room. A dominating pressure filled the space, and the beastkin nodded reluctantly, while the Umbu sheathed his tanto. Hiruzen, I understand why he is so important for Konoha, given that he's viewed as a military asset. However, I cannot simply allow him to return to you without knowing if he will be safe, Veronica said, though she knew Naruto could take care of himself, having mastered everything she and the Beastman had taught him. Hiruzen sighed before speaking again, his tone calmer. I must insist, Veronica. His parents would have wanted him to become a shinobi of Konoha. I cannot deny their final wishes. Veronica crossed her arms under her births and leaned back in her chair, sighing in annoyance. I would love nothing more than to tell you I'm not giving him up. However, the decision ultimately belongs to Naruto himself. In that case, why not bring the boy here? We can let him decide what he wants, Hiruzen suggested, overly confident that Naruto would choose to become a shinobi. However, he felt uneasy when he noticed the vampire queen's smirk. Oh, but Hiruzen, he's been in this room the entire time. Why not ask him yourself? Veronica said, relishing the shocked expression on the aged Hokage's face. Hiruzen began to scan the office until he spotted a young white-haired man rising from a nearby couch, glaring at him. Hey old man. Long time no see, Naruto said, barely managing to suppress his anger at the old man before him. Naruto-kun? You look so different. How are you doing, my boy? Hiruzen asked with a grandfatherly smile, but Naruto was not in the mood for pleasantries. Cut the act, old man. Give me one good reason why I should trust you or that village at all. By all rights, I should take down every single one of those people, Naruto snarled, fed up with Hiruzen's false concern. Naruto-kun, you can't. The villagers are still grieving over their losses from the Kyuubi attack, the old Hokage tried to reason. Shiranui scoffed, interjecting rudely, grieving, you say? They've had nearly 2 decades to get over their losses, yet they still curse his name to this day. My point is that there are innocent people in Konoha, Naruto. Innocent people still suffering due to the attack, Hiruzen insisted, casting a sidelong glare at the striking woman. Innocent, huh? I'd like to know your definition of innocent, old man, because I think I'm confused. Does beating a child every year on their birthday make them innocent? Does plotting to turn that child, who wasn't even a day old, into a mindless weapon for a village make them innocent? How about betraying that boy's entire clan to seize power for yourself? Naruto roared with fury, his dark aura exploding around him, directed solely at the Hokage. Despite this, everyone felt a chill as his overwhelming presence washed over the room. In a fit of rage, he conjured a dark spectral hand that gripped Sarutobi by the collar, pulling him close until their faces nearly touched. Let me make this clear. There are no innocents. Not a single one of those people is innocent, and you know it. Naruto shouted, his eyes glowing a menacing red with slit pupils. The tiger-masked Umbu drew his tanto again, ready to attack the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, but the snake-masked Umbu stopped him with a firm grip on his shoulder. The first Umbu turned to protest, but the glowing yellow eyes of his partner silenced him. Hiruzen struggled to escape the vampire's grip, but it was futile. Just as Naruto was about to take drastic action, a gentle hand gripped his left hand, causing him to pause and look at the source. Yu gazed at Naruto with sad eyes, raising a hand to his cheek. Naruto, please don't do something you might regret. Yes, this man deserves everything coming to him, But if you kill him, you might jeopardize the safety of everyone here. Naruto searched Yu's eyes, then sighed, his resolve softening. The spectral hand gripping Sarutobi's collar vanished, causing the Hokage to drop to the floor in a coughing fit. He was right. It was too soon to take such a step, and everyone knew it. Naruto glanced at Veronica, who nodded at him with a devious smile on her beautiful face. He knew what she was conveying with just a look, and it made him chuckle inwardly. The old fool wants you by his side? Well then, why not give him what he wants? All right, fine, I'll be a shinobi of Konoha, Naruto declared, causing everyone to stare at him in shock, except for Veronica, Rachel, and Jubi. However, I will only do so under 3 conditions. These, as you can imagine, are non-negotiable. If you can't agree to any of them, then you can forget about me being a shinobi under you. Is that clear? With a reluctant nod from Hiruzen, Naruto began listing his demands. First, the council doesn't have a say in anything I do inside or outside the village. If they step out of line, then I have full rights to deal with them without hesitation. Sarutobi winced but nodded as the vampire continued. I know that team placements are in a few days. I'm not going on a team that you pick for me, for obvious reasons. That's why I want to choose my teammates, whether they be from here or Konoha. The Hokage opened his mouth to speak but chose to remain silent, allowing Naruto to continue. Lastly, any orders I receive as a shinobi of Konoha are to come straight from you and you alone. If I receive an order from Veronica, then her orders take priority. I don't care if you're ordering for the daimyo, Veronica's orders take precedence over all else. A sigh escaped the aged Hokage's lips before he nodded reluctantly. Very well, I agree to these terms. Am I to assume that you will come to Konoha on your own? Yeah, I will. Now if you don't mind, kindly get out of my sight. Just seeing your face disgusts me, Naruto growled, prompting Hiruzen to nod reluctantly as he exited the room, followed by the tiger masked Umbu. Yugao approached Naruto and lifted her mask to give him a kiss on the cheek before following her former leader out of the room. The snake-masked Umbu walked toward a Seijai and handed her a folder. This is all the information we were able to gather on Otogekure. I hope it's useful for now, the woman said, and a Seijai nodded as she began looking through the file. Good work, Raven. Tell Morrigan to come back when she has the chance, a Seijai instructed, making the now-named Raven nod before walking toward Naruto. She lifted her mask, similar to Yugao, but unlike the cat-masked Umbu, Raven kissed Naruto on the lips before quickly pulling away and exiting the room. Soon, Anko, Kurenai, and Hana emerged from their hiding spots, relieved that the Hokage was unaware of their presence. Boss? Why did you agree to join the Bad Village? Sarah remembers that you said they hurt you as a pup, Sarah asked, confusion evident on her face, prompting her fellow beastkin to seek an explanation as well. Let me answer this one, Naruto, Veronica interjected, and the Jinchuriki nodded for her to continue. You could say we have a plan in the making to bring Konoha to its knees, and it involves this Otogekure I've been hearing so much about. Ah, the village founded by that treacherous snake, if I recall, Rachel remarked with a huff, quickly grasping what her sister was implying. You plan on having this village be the catalyst for Konoha's destruction. Indeed we do. Morrigan and Raven just confirmed our suspicions that Orochimaru plans on attacking Konoha in the future. When it will happen we're still not sure, but if I had to guess, it would be around the time of the Chunin exams, a Seijai said, still examining the folder the snake-masked Umbu had given her. Oh, I get it now. While Naruto and his team have Konoha's attention, we'll be gathering allies from other countries as well as stray monsters to join our cause. He'll be our double agent, Shaltir said excitedly. Yeah, but there's just one problem, Naruto interjected, capturing everyone's attention. I haven't exactly completed my training just yet, or at least, that's what Jubi said. Oh that? Yeah, I lied about that, kid. I'm surprised you haven't figured it out yet. You've long since completed your training. I just wanted to refine your skills before something like this happened, Jubi commented, causing Naruto to facepalm. Fufu, it's the same here, Tao. You've long since mastered everything related to magic, or at least what we could teach you, Shiranui confirmed with a playful smile. Then what was the point of me doing all that extra training? Not that I mind, of course, the Jinchuriki asked, feeling curious. At that moment, a certain bust-to-beastkin maid walked into the room with a large box in her hands. Sorry I'm late, everyone. It took a while for me to get everything in order, but I'm here now, Roxanne said as she dragged the large boxes into the room. Naruto walked up to his personal maid and helped her bring the boxes inside the office. Thank you, Toyo-sama, she said. Anytime, Roxy. What's in these things, by the way? The male vampire asked, feeling curious himself, until Jubi spoke up. Kid, those are for you. We all figured we'd give you a present when we completed your training. Go ahead and open them, Jubi said with a snicker, enjoying Naruto's shocked expression as he looked around at everyone in the room, who nodded encouragingly. Naruto thanked everyone before starting to open the first box, revealing a finely made high-collar red coat with multiple black belts, metal plates on the elbows and shoulders, black accents, and two tail-like appendages hanging from the back of the coat. He picked up the coat and could immediately sense the multiple seals and enhancements on it. Wow, this thing is no joke. Did you all make this? Yes, we did. However, most of the work was mainly done by me and Shiranui. It has a self-repairing seal, so it will fix itself if it's ever damaged, but that won't matter if they can't get past the multiple defense runes around the coat, Veronica explained softly, while her vassal gave everyone a thankful nod. This next one is from me, kid. I know you've been working hard on your Kenjutsu and your Soul Eater, so I managed to get this crafted for you, Jubi said, pushing the second box forward to Naruto. As Naruto opened the box, his eyes widened in shock and disbelief as he held up what was inside for everyone to see. It looked like a mechanical blade with a long black handle that reached toward the tip of the blade, which was a pure white, reflecting the red moon outside. It wasn't heavy, nor was it light. For Naruto, it felt just right in his hands. Oh, what is this thing? Naruto questioned, making Jubi smirk. That's your new sword, kid. I call it Aramesa, one of my tribe's best works yet. You'll figure out how it works when you use it, Jubi replied, still grinning at the vampire's astonished expression. Well, what are you waiting for, Naruto? Rachel interjected, catching Naruto's attention. Instead of gawking at your new items like a stunned child, why not try them on for yourself? Everyone worked hard to put these together for you, so it would be a shame for their hard work to go to waste. Naruto looked around the room at everyone, who all nodded, encouraging him to put the coat on. He smiled warmly, then grabbed the coat and put it on, with two of the belts forming a crisscross around his waist to hold the bottom of the jacket in place. The coat fit perfectly, and for some reason he felt complete. Enko whistled in approval at Naruto's new look while licking her lips. She was instantly smacked upside the head by Kurenai, making her wince in pain, but she didn't really care. She could feel the vampire's growing interest in the white-haired man, much like most of the other females in the room, especially her fellow succubi. Naruto grinned while looking at himself in the mirror as he strapped Aramesa to the back of his waist. He thanked everyone for their compliments, but then he asked Jubi why he called it Aramesa, as it just looked like a sword to him. Jubi laughed heartily and told Naruto that he would have to figure it out when he used it. He assured Naruto that the sword was one of the best weapons his tribe had made and advised him to treat it with care. As everyone continued to compliment Naruto's new attire, Veronica spoke up, catching everyone's attention. She mentioned that while she would love to mingle, they had business to attend to, and dismissed everyone, expecting them to be prepared for the upcoming Chunin exams. Everyone nodded affirmatively and started walking out of the room. However, before Naruto could leave, the vampire queen called out to him, asking him to stay for a bit. Confused but compliant, Naruto nodded as Nyuta, Sylvia, and Sarah separated from him, leaving him alone with Veronica. Breaking the silence, Naruto asked what was on her mind. Veronica explained that she wanted to speak to him alone. She stepped closer, placing her hand on his cheek, and complimented him on how much he had grown. She admitted that she had her doubts when Roxanne first brought him to her, but now he had become a promising warrior. Naruto, flattered but confused, asked where she was going with this. Veronica giggled softly and explained that as the queen of Cinderspire, she required a king to rule alongside her. She expressed that she needed someone to stand by her side. Naruto, still puzzled, asked why she was telling him this. Veronica playfully pointed out that she thought it was obvious. She leaned forward and kissed him, catching him off guard. Initially shocked, he eventually pulled her closer, reciprocating her kiss as it became more passionate. They soon separated, a thin line of saliva trailing from their lips as Veronica caressed his cheek lovingly. She expressed her desire for him to become her king, the king of Cinderspire and all of monster kind. She explained that there were no suitable candidates for the role, as most vampires were either afraid of her or plotting against her. She noted that he was the only one who treated her as a normal person and was now strong enough to take on the role. Naruto looked at her in shock and disbelief. He never expected that Veronica, who had saved him and given him everything he had ever wanted, would want him to be her king. A light blush adorned his face as he expressed his gratitude but questioned if she was sure about this, suggesting there might be someone else suitable for the role. Veronica firmly stated that there were not. She explained that she would only allow herself to take another vampire as a husband, and the only other vampire strong enough to contend with her wish to use her for his own purposes. She insisted that this position was meant for Naruto and no one else. Seeing her sincerity, Naruto felt touched by her willingness to go this far for him. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded resolutely and agreed to be her husband and king of monsters. Veronica smiled, pleased with his decision. She leaned in close to his ear and whispered sultrily, inviting him to her chambers later that night to consummate their bond, playfully urging him not to keep her waiting. As bats surrounded her, she stepped away from a blushing Naruto, her smile playful as she disappeared, leaving him alone in the office. Naruto pondered the implications of their conversation. He never thought he would be considered for such a role, but he felt confident he could fulfill it. However, thoughts of the Hokage and the council darkened his mood. He vowed that when the time came, they would face the consequences of their actions.